I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Paradise Irrigation District to order on Wednesday, July 16, 2014 at 6:30 p.m. Please stand with me and we'll pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. He was here a minute ago. Where'd he go?
He went outside, but...
Went outside? Okay, roll call, please.
Director Corolla?
Here.
Vice President Hunt?
Here.
President Delinquent?
Here.
Director Fletcher?
Here.
And Director Kellogg is...
He's here, but not at his
Just
desk.
outside.
He just stepped out the door.
Oh, here you go. Roll call. Are you here, Bill? Are you here?
Director Kellogg?
Okay. Director Kellogg? Yes. Okay. Okay. First item on the agenda after the opening is the approval of the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the calendar before we make a motion to accept it?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to talk about anything on it? Seeing none, all those in favor say, we have roll call.
Director Corolla?
Yes.
Vice President Hunt?
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
President Duncan?
Yes. Moves past 5-0. Okay, now is the time for public participation. Individuals we've given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not scheduled on the agenda. Although the board cannot take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for public comment for agenda items will be provided at the time they are presented and discussed by the board, with comments limited to 5 minutes per agenda item. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to something that isn't on the agenda?
I guess it's my turn again, Ward Habriel, on behalf of myself this time. Last time, I was a little worried about being able to get through my entire agenda in only 5 minutes, so I thought I'd save the most important thing for this meeting. As I had indicated, I was on a quest, primarily on another topic, but as it ended up addressing a lot of agricultural concerns. And I just want to summarize it with these very popular quotes that I got, mostly from people in ag business. I'm not going to let my family, my livestock, or my crops be destroyed by the lack of water. I'll get the water no matter what I have to do. I heard that about 15 times, or variations thereof. Poor management of water resources in California is to blame and has been for many years. Only an idiot would put a snail darter ahead of human existence. I heard that about 15 times, or a variation thereof. And agriculture is the most important business in this state. Growers know more about managing water rights than any bureaucrat ever will. Also very common. So out of about 15 pages of notes in 5 different counties and over 20 different cities or communities, I garnered a lot of information. People, frankly, are disgusted with how we've managed our water. It comes a lot down to perception, because as much as I like to brag about my PID, I know for one director's comment it's hard for me to use the word education, but the lack of that has come up several times, that the public does not have a good view of how the water companies manage water. Sometimes the media is to blame, sometimes it's the perception, sometimes it's the lack of attendance in a board, but generally speaking, there is a very poor perception of how we have managed water in the state of California and individually in small community water companies. I have about 40 minutes of information I can reveal. I just summarize it like this. I think we can all do a better job. Whether you're talking to your neighbor, your friends in the Moose Lodge, the Elks at your church, in making it known how good a job we actually do and help people be convinced that whatever they have to say about water and how we manage it is more positive than what the general view is, at least in my opinion, over 5 counties and more than 20 different communities. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Could I ask him a question?
I get, yeah,
No,
no? Can we ask
that's
questions?
not on the agendas.
Oh. If it's not on the agenda, we should.
I don't know. I don't know.
Huh?
Well, I was gonna, technically, no.
Can you ask it during director comments?
I guess so. I was just going to ask him where he got the information. That's all.
He said he went around.
Yeah, I was just curious where he went around.
He told us 5 counties.
Sure.
I'll give you one.
Thank you.
Okay, going on to new business. First item is a process watering recycling project. Manager Barber.
Yes, thank you. Earlier you got the analysis report that the board requested be completed by AECOM, so you had a chance to review that. We got it to you in written form and email, and then it came out in the board packet for the public to see. We got some recommendations on actions in my memo, but I think most importantly, we want to hear from AECOM and have them present their findings of that report to you.
In summary fashion.
Somebody, you want to read it?
We've read it.
It's going to take 1 second. He puts in, he'll take over the projector.
That's the same as ours. Is it gonna pop up?
It should.
Larry's getting worried.
I'm not worried. There we go.
Now I blanked my own screen out.
Oops.
There we go. Awesome.
Kim didn't need the switch.
And
No, I don't know.
No, it's okay. It's later.
so, do we need to put it up on? There
It
we go.
should. There it goes.
All right, thank you.
Make sure I'll find it.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Joe Huang. I was the project manager for AECOM's lifecycle cost analysis for the recycled water project. I'm in the Sacramento office of AECOM. The existing Paradise Water Treatment Plant takes water out of the creek between Paradise Reservoir and Magalia Reservoir, passes it through an absorption clarifier and filters, and then the treated water is then sent to distribution. Periodically, the absorption clarifiers and the filters need cleaning and flushing. That water that is used to clean is sent to a wastewater equalization tank and then pumped up the hill to sludge ponds where they have an opportunity to settle out and to dry, and then eventually those solids are scraped out by the staff and sent to landfill. Some of the water is decanted from the sludge ponds and then discharged to Magalia Reservoir. That water, or that discharge, requires a permit from the Regional Water Quality Control Board that is about to expire next year. And also, that water is a lost opportunity because there is an opportunity here to recycle that water, because that is about 10% of the overall plant flow. And during these times of drought, with all the concerns of water management, that is an opportunity that we can take to actually reuse some of the water that we have at basically almost free of cost. Lee and Rowe, our predecessor engineers on this project, prepared a study and recommended the treatment scheme that you see on the screen, where the flush water and the filter backwash water are sent to a flocculation and settlement train, where there's a separation process, and the clean water resulting from that process is recycled to the head of the plant. This recycled water is subject to two regulations of EPA and the California Department of Health. Those are the cryptosporidium rule and the filter backwash rule, which in total state that they rules the clarity of the water that can come back. It's less than 2 NTU turbidity units, and also it regulates the volume of the water coming back to the head of the plant. It can be no more than 10% of the water that the plant is currently treating. So because of that, the plant has a history of having a lot of flushes and backwash volume during times when they have a low treatment flow and high turbidity events, for instance, after the first rain of the season, during forest fires. So in those cases, there needs to be a little bit of equalization coming back to regulate the flow coming back, as we said, according to the filter backwash rule. Lee and Rowe's alternative 3, as we'll deem it, because that was the terminology in the report, actually used the treatment train itself, the flocculation basins and clarifiers, as that equalization volume. So we're going to, the proposal is to build basins of the size that can equalize that water flow and then regulate it back to the head of the plant. The advantage of this approach, well, actually we'll look at the site plan there. This is how these proposed facilities are going to sit on the site. All the facilities are basically located on the existing plant site to the south of Skyway Boulevard, and the basins themselves are on the west side of the plant, and the dewatering building where belt filter press or centrifuge would be located on the site of the abandoned site of the old water treatment plant. So it's a compact layout, and one that employs technology that is well proven and has a very good track history throughout the years. So the advantages of this option are it has a real low impact on the plant site. It can be constructed fairly easily in areas that current operations aren't happening. It's not vulnerable to weather influences. One of the main problems that the staff runs into now is when the sludge sits in the drying basins for a while, there's an opportunity that a rain may come along and then just completely spoil the drying. And so the more volume that they end up having to truck, or the less concentrated sludge they end up having to truck to the landfill, they actually they have to pay the landfill to take. I think it has to be at least 20% settled, George?
I believe less than under 20%.
Solids.
Bill would know that, yeah.
So if it's less than 20% solids, they actually have to pay the landfill to take it. So it's a cost factor of this vulnerability to weather influences. It has, like I said, a small footprint, and a large equalization tank is not required. Lee and Rowe's report set the volume of the equalization tank at 2 million gallons, which is a large. It's an unusually large, but I think it's a valid concern that that they express and address pretty well in their report. So again, during these high turbidity events where they're selling out a lot of solids and washing the backwashes quite a bit, this alternative provides the ability to handle these washes, and then it also allows, because of the equalization volume that's provided in the treatment train, it allows them to bypass the current wash water equalization tank and allow maintenance on that. The tank is about 20 years old. It's needing recoating and some other improvements. Disadvantage of this approach is that you have mechanical equipment that you need to install, plate settlers, a flocculation train which has motors, and a centrifuge or a belt filter press, which is mechanical equipment. And that will be accounted for in our cost analysis. So we looked at Lee and Rowe's cost estimate for this alternative. We updated the unit costs a little bit on excavation and concrete to update them to the current prices. We also looked at the general conditions, reduced it from 15% that Lee and Rowe was assuming to 10%, and came up with a total capital cost of $8.9 million for this alternative.
Excuse me, do we have the Lee and Rowe estimate? Can you remind us what it was?
The Lee and Rowe estimate.
Do you guys remember? It was very close to the same.
Yeah.
Slightly higher.
Yeah, it's slightly higher.
One of the reasons it was higher is Joe can explain the change in escalation to midpoint of construction. That was part of it.
I have it in here, but I didn't mark that page, but it was pushing 10 million. Because if you remember, I suggested that when they came back with 7 million, I said it was going to be a $10 million project. It turned out to be that.
Thank you.
Right. So the life cycle costs associated with this alternative is pumping to move the water around back to the head of the plant to let it flow through the existing plant and gravity. Chemical costs, additional chemical costs because we need to add coagulants and polymers to enhance the settling in the new treatment train, and also labor for the staff to watch over the new treatment train and also to maintain it. So I estimated our opinion of the present worth of that annual cost over 20 years, it's $850,000. So adding those two together, we get a total life cycle cost for this alternative at $9.8 million, just under 10. Okay. So another option that you guys have been kicking around is this concept of a constructed wetlands to treat the wash water before it goes back to the head of the plant. So what happens here is that instead of going to a flocculation settling basin, it goes back to the sludge ponds as the current practice. But instead of the discharge or the decant from the sludge ponds going back to Magalia Reservoir, we intercept that stream and pass it through a constructed wetlands, and then regulate the flow out of the constructed wetlands back to the head of the plant at the 10% of plant flow. One of the items here is that the wetlands have to be sized not just for treatment, but for this equalization volume that I mentioned earlier to handle those cases where they have a lot of wash water flow and a lot of backwash flow. So we need 2 million gallons of storage in that basin to be able to equalize that water so it doesn't overwhelm the treatment plant and throw it out of compliance with the regulations for the 10%. So So the report that was previously prepared for the board just estimated the cost of the wash water or the construction wetlands. Also made some estimates on the size of the constructed wetlands, and also determined that the wetlands themselves really don't need any plantings, which is really one of the characteristics of wetlands. So in effect, it becomes a gravel filter, and as biomass accumulates on it, you can actually call it a trickling filter, which those of you that are familiar with wastewater processes are common in wastewater treatment plants. But the idea behind a trickling filter and the biomass treatment is to treat biological components that can't be to break down biological components such as ammonia and phosphorus and those types of things, none of which are really concerns here. The idea for the treatment train is to basically separate the suspended solids that are existing in the wash water flow from water that you can recycle, and then find another place to put those solids. So in effect, you are creating another fat spot in the pipe where solids can deposit with this wetlands. You're really not treating it at all, but there might be some biological decomposition over time, but we think that the solids will eventually accumulate, and you're going to have to periodically clean or replace the media in this filter to make it really work. As we looked at the Brown-Caldwell report, we realized also that there's another couple of components that was really missing from their cost estimate and their concept, and that was the rehabilitation of the north and south sludge ponds. Currently, they're not lined, and that is an issue with the Regional Water Quality Board because that water leaks back into Magalia Reservoir or into the groundwater table. So the Regional Water Quality Board would require any work on those sludge ponds to line them to prevent any to contain that water in there. Also, the staff is currently experiencing, what the staff is currently experiencing is that there's not enough drying capacity in the sludge ponds. As I mentioned earlier, what happens is they have to take sludge that is not settled enough, doesn't have a high enough solids concentration, and actually scrape it out of the sludge pond so they can keep using them, and then put it somewhere on site in an unlined impoundment somewhere, which is also susceptible to rain and runoff, which the regional board could have an issue with. So that to that end, we recommend constructing a dedicated sludge drying bed. And then the next item we found that was really wasn't addressed in the Brown-Caldwell report was the size of this gravel filter, this wetland, this constructed wetlands, or gravel filter, if you will, to provide that 2 million gallons of equalization volume. You have basically a big concrete tank that's filled with gravel, and typical estimates of that gravel volume is going to take about 60% of the volume of that filter as just gravel. So you only have 40% of it that really holds the water. So instead of a 2 million gallon basin, you've got a 4.5 million gallon basin all of a sudden. And the only way we can get it onto the current site is to put it in the spot where I've indicated on the site plan, and also to construct it with vertical concrete walls, which makes it a very expensive construction.
How deep would it be?
About 15 feet. So you'd have to excavate 18, 20 feet down to get that put in. So the advantage of this wetlands option is that it's similar to the current operations where they're pumping up to the sludge drying beds, and then instead of going to the Megalia, they'll go back to the head of the plant. It's less mechanical equipment than alternative 3 than the mechanical settling option. However, the disadvantages are it still uses that equalization basin, doesn't provide any, the existing equalization tank doesn't provide any means to take that out of service so that it can be repainted and brought up to current code. It obviously has a larger footprint than the alternative 3, and it's still vulnerable to weather influences. So you could have some nice dry sludge sitting in that sludge drying bed, and an early season rainstorm comes through, and you're back to you move back a couple of squares and have to wait a little longer for that to dry. That's one of the disadvantages. Also, because of where we have to locate it on the site, there's future rehabilitation of Megalia Reservoir that could happen in that area to the east of Skyway that would encroach on the areas that we're looking at for this wetlands option. So, saying all that, the capital cost of this option, we priced it out at $15.6 million. That's with the same unit costs that we used for the mechanical settling option. The annual operation and maintenance cost is slightly less than the mechanical settling option to reflect a little bit less chemical cost. However, there is greater power cost to pump the water up the hill to the sludge drying beds, which are approximately 100 feet above the plant level. And this present worth cost doesn't include any sort of maintenance on the filter media, the gravel filter media itself, where one of the assumptions was that during the 20-year life cycle that there's enough volume there that you wouldn't have to clean it out. But if you have to clean it out, then that's several $1 million operation to probably the most feasible method is to just scrape the existing media out of there and replace it with new. So that's a several $1 million operation that would have to happen if the filter clogged up.
With the wetland option, where does the water go after you?
It gets recycled back to the head of the plant.
Back to the plant.
Yeah.
So you have one going up and one coming down? Two different.
Yeah, you have a pipe going up the hill, and then it's going to come back down the hill back to the head.
In a different pipe.
Yeah, yeah. So we have to construct those pipelines and cross Skyway and do all that.
Right.
Well, could the one coming back go into the Bulgaria bypass pipe?
Could use
Because all of a sudden we could recycle 10% back per
yes.
day of our raw water.
Yes.
Usually, so couldn't we just shut down 10% of the release from Paradise Lake and put that 10% back in? It's all gravity.
Back into the lake?
No, back into the pipe.
Back into the pipe?
10% of it.
You can't go into the bypass pipeline because theoretically you could back up the bypass pipeline and go up the diversion man, and we now have a discharge. It has to go in below the raw water storage tank.
Yeah, one of the aims of the project is to eliminate your discharge permit to any of the surrounding waters.
What is the cost of the discharge permit? Maintenance and everything, inspections and so forth?
Jim did an analysis of that. It was $50,000 a year, something like that with all the testing. But I'm just going off the memory.
9 or 10.
With including all the labor that we've put into it and all the sampling, I would say that's
50,000?
reasonable.
The permits they're not that expensive.
No, the permit itself, I think it was 40,000 last time, something like that.
Cost of permits are rising also.
Yeah, we essentially have to pay the Water Quality Control Board their permit fees that cover their staff time, et cetera, in that process.
Oh, that's,
So there is a permit.
so 40% of the 40,000 of the 50 goes to the,
50,000 a year,
yeah,
permit lasts 5 years.
all 5 years, okay.
So the permit would be,
40,000 once every 5 years.
so you'd have 40,000 every 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
Plus the requirements of the permit could change,
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
who knows where,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it could
in the next
become more
5, 10
stringent.
years, exactly.
And then so you might need another level of treatment in the future.
Well, that was a change you made, right? Because I think last time we were talking about this, the discharge is back into Magalia Reservoir. And then we apparently here decided it would be better to just go right back in and use it in our, add it to our raw water.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's- I
To get
think
rid of
that's,
the
So we
That-
can,
that's
so we
a
can
permit.
get rid of it, yeah.
yeah, I think that's a more cost effective.
You mentioned it here, you know, option 1 and 2, which we voted out, so, but you do not have any equalization tanks in here that Lee and Rowe wanted to put in. Because as I understand it, we had a young lady here last meeting or the meeting before, I forgot there. No matter how clean your water is, raw water coming in, and no matter what you do to it, no matter how clean it is, you can still only recycle 10% back in
Yes.
per day.
Yes.
So what are we going, right now, according to the report, we're using about an average of 7.7 million gallons a day. Is that right, Bill?
Yeah.
How many gallons do we bring in to process and turn out 7 million gallons down the pipe, the treated water?
And it varies day to day, but roughly at 10% to that. I mean, we run right at that ragged 10% edge almost.
All the time? Okay.
Yeah.
In other words,
So it-
there's 10%.
We have to, just
more
because of
water
the lack of storage, we can't hold on to extra water, we gotta try to recycle as much as we
have to
can.
clean the plant.
Yeah,
When you're filtering this stuff out, that stuff has to be taken out of the plant. And
Yes.
that's the cleaning processes we do.
yeah.
And so all that water currently goes right back into Magalia Reservoir.
Well, after it gets cleaned up a little bit.
Well, yeah, we settle the solids out as best we can in our
Yeah.
existing ponds, and it goes back into
Do
Magalia.
you keep
Reservoir.
track of how much goes in there now?
Yes.
Getting back for another question. So we're using, let's put it at 8 million gallons. Hot spells coming or whatever, you know. So you would bring in 8,800,000 gallons out of the lake. Okay. That'd be your 10%.
That'd be 10%.
And that would have to be around, but we can only put back, well, that would be 10%. Yeah, that's my question. What are we going to do with that 800,000 gallons if we don't have any place to put it?
We won't bring it down.
We won't bring it down.
Leave it up there.
No, we have to,
Yeah.
because he has to process it to send 8 million gallons out the pipe.
So you have to, if you look at alternative 3, that's using the same water over and over again.
Yeah, it just cycles
No, but
around.
see, Bill, George, she said so, and some other research, and even they said so. No matter how clean that water is going around in that plant, you can only put 10% back in the pipe per day.
Yeah, so what you're wanting to know is what we do if we have more than 10%
Yeah.
accumulate, we have an equalization tank.
No, we're not, because he says here on
Oh, it's
page,
there,
No,
page
right in
8.
the picture.
You're talking for
You're
the
talking wetland?
the
No,
wetlands.
no, I'm talking wetlands at all. I'm
Alternative
talking
three?
here
Yeah,
mechanical.
processing has
I'm
an
talking about,
equalization tank.
I'm talking mechanicals, well, it's in our minutes, but it's.
Right
over
here,
too.
wastewater equalization tank.
Well, let him answer. Do we have one or not?
Yeah, well, that volume is taken up in the volume of the treatment basins. So there's enough volume there to hold the,
What's left over?
yeah, what's left over.
Yeah, okay. But, one of the things I noticed, and on 1 and 2, which we voted out, and I was one of the people who voted against it, there was quite an equalization process and a lot of storage.
Yes.
Of the second of it.
That was one of the major cost factors.
Yeah, but even though you're passing it around the plant, because I asked this very question, around the plant, no matter how clean it is. In fact, she said, if it's clean enough to go down the pipes of the people, you can still only put 10% back in the system. George?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
She represented the Water
Iron?
Control Board, not the Department of Health Services. That's who controls the 10%. And we've ran this concept by Department of Health Services. And so when we're using that water to flush, it is not considered being used, recycled. Because right now when we flush with raw water. Mm-hmm. So it just goes through the system and back around. The water we use for backwashing filters, that will have to be new water.
Okay, so this is the last slide of my presentation. It's just a graphical representation of the overall life cycle cost between the two options. And AECOM recommends that you proceed with alternative 3 based upon the lower life cycle cost.
Joe, I have a question.
Yes.
Alternative 3, has that type of technology or that type of system been around for 20 years?
Yes.
What's the experience? I mean, is that its life 20 years, or can you expect more in some cases, less in others?
It depends on the type of infrastructure that you put in. In this case, Lee and Rowe recommended concrete tanks, which could last 50 years. The mechanical equipment, typical engineering judgment is a 20-year life cycle. So for mixers and any sort of sludge removal, valves, we just assume a 20-year life cycle. It could, with good maintenance, it could last many years beyond that.
The centrifuge and the belt press is the other option for the dewatering part of it. Is that those also 20-year?
Yeah, that's the general engineering rule of thumb for a 20-year life cycle.
Well, I know we do real good on maintenance of our equipment, so I think we'll get probably maximum life out of it. But if 20 years is what we're going to get, that's, I guess, all we can hope for, give or take.
I have another one, Joe. On number 2.2 on page 7 in our agenda, well, I guess it's your report. You mentioned on here that for the dewatering process, several items, but the belt filter press or the centrifuge which is not within the scope of this study. So you didn't look at either one of those.
The scope of the study was not to choose between them.
Okay, I realize
the
that.
next phase.
But on your train, you had one item down underneath there. I have it someplace out here, I guess.
Yeah, we just took the more expensive.
You took it in there for $1,800.
Excuse me?
Put it in there for $1,800.
1,800.
18,000. 1.8 million. I'll get it out here in a minute.
I'll say 1,800.
We'll pay you 1,800.
Yeah.
I was working on something very similar to yours, and that's the number zeros that we had.
Yeah.
It'd be much nicer if we were working with those two.
Yeah.
So you take me where I'm at.
Yeah.
Well, 1.8, I think.
Yeah.
But Leland and Rowe, which you use a lot of their reports, a lot of their stuff in here. Direct, not plagiarism, but a direct copy because you gave them credit for it, okay, which is fine, no need to just do it twice. But they had down for a centrifuge was 2.9 mil, and for a belt filter was 2.5 mil on here. And that was in their report, and that was on page 46.
Page 46 of their report.
Of their report.
They were probably just assuming that we would get to our project about 10 years from now, and that's what it would cost by that time.
That could very well be. No, it wasn't that. But see, they also came up with a 15-year life cycle, and it's kind of interesting.
Well,
I spent most of my career at Butte College, the new campus, and back in the 70s and 80s, I retired from full-time in 92. I worked with the sewage treatment plant down there. Just the effluent that was coming out, that was as close as I wanted to get to it. They have a centrifuge. And what I was working with that on was for settling ponds and irrigation systems and wetlands, because I build them with my class. And we had a director there, John Coward, who was really one of the top fish and game biologists. Well, anyway, and he was into it for water. He had Gray Lodge. He managed for pushing 40 years. And the centrifuge that we were using at that time, and I still remember it, but, I just wondered about the water that came out of the pipe. It's worked for 45 years. But they've had so I'm speaking positively, And it's a different size than we'll have. Right now they're putting, I just found this information out this week, 225,000 gallons a day. And in the wintertime, when we have a student population, which we don't have anybody there hardly now, it's about 1 million gallons a day out here. And when I asked him about the centrifuge, they had looked in years ago, and I remember that, he called it bulletproof. But they've had to rebuild it several times over the 45 years.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to manage, although they have to have somebody turn it off and on and all that.
Yeah. And I imagine it's probably about every 15 or 20 years that they have to rebuild it, and so it's...
Yeah, they have records and all that stuff, but they had to rebuild the pumps and everything else,
Yeah.
But when I started working with it was 45 years ago, I guess. And I was interested in the fluid coming out of it.
Yeah.
And the reason ours didn't work so well is because when we really needed it, it's in the summertime we don't have any water. Well, normally speaking, in the wintertime when we have lots of water, they're just running off the mountains, So, but we still made it work.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So to address your question about the costs that are on page 46 of the Lee and Rowe report, the $2.6 million for the bell filter press and the $3 million for the centrifuge are including contingencies, general conditions, and escalation. What I took for the $1.7 million was the raw top line cost, and then I added it to the alternative 3, and then took the...
I guess that's when I looked at it.
Yeah.
But this would be just if we had to take the old one and throw it in the scrap and put a new one in.
Yeah.
Now, apparently down there, but see, one of the things that we have in education, it's a state. I've managed budgets down there for quite a number of years and still managing a couple of them. They would let us repair the world and spend more on an old wore-out piece of machinery, repairing it, than we could buy a new one. This is the way the state thinks, straight crooked thinking on here. And so I can understand why they keep repairing the old centrifuge, because the state wouldn't capital spend on the damn thing, So they just buy parts and fix it. And it's working fine.
Yep.
Sounds promising.
Okay, anyone else have any other questions of this gentleman?
I've got a little talk I want to present.
Right,
Have any
okay.
questions?
Okay, thank you. Does any board member wish to have any input concerning this item?
I will after call this.
Okay, okay. So Bill, you want to do yours?
Okay, thank you very much. Could you leave your thing, do you have this map?
Yeah, I can find it.
Put that up on the screen?
Yeah, sure.
That would help.
Give me a couple minutes to find it.
It's, I don't know, figure 3.2. It doesn't have a page.
Is it in the report? I can get it. Let me get it from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the one that's got the wetlands option. Yeah. Before we start, I can say that I've been on the phone to different people today and yesterday. The water quality people up in Reading, the manager of the Chico sewage operation, and Lee and Rose, or Ron Pride, talked to him, and I think I covered almost everybody. But at any rate, so I've been doing my homework. If we could bring it down where we could see the ponds.
3.2, George.
It's, yeah, I think it's 3.2, George, the figure.
Yeah, it's after page 22. There we go.
There
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
the one.
Okay.
If you could just leave that one up, that'd help, and everybody can see it. I realize the gap between civil engineering and biological or biologists in dealing with wetlands is quite a gap. In agriculture, we have the same problem with new processes and ideas. We have a slow acceptance of newer ideas, sometimes 20 years. The point being that the thing that you have here is not a wetland. And it comes from this national standards or off of the internet a definition of a wetland. What you have is there's no plants, there's no attempt to put anything in it. It's a huge leach field as far as I'm concerned. And the pond thing to control the amount of water it goes to the water process plant. It's just way out of the scope of anything I would have expected on a wetland study in here. I talked to Ron Cright about it, and he said, well, that was the reason it was so big was for the water supply into the plant. It wasn't because of the wetlands as such. So, but anyway, I would like us to go on and postpone the mechanical plant costing up to $2 million. We do not have the $10 million bucks. Where is the payback? It's been estimated at 500 to 600 acre feet. And at 10 million, that's 16,600 an acre foot, I'm sorry, which is outrageous. When is the water savings available through the process? And leave people like Bill and Jim to answer that. Can we find a lower cost solution? And basically the idea I have is keeping the NPDES permit. And an NPDES permit was introduced in 1972. It's the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which the EPA controls, but statewide it's controlled by CWA. It's true of most states, is the way that the government has put it across the regulations. So I'm not concerned about rewater. I'm concerned about the cost of these processes and what it costs our community and what the financial situation we find ourselves in as a district, owing $10 million now in various notes. So my suggestion, and I think it's a possible solution, is that we use the existing ponds, even though there's a chance that the CWA may request us to upgrade them. Build a wetlands that is gravity fed, uses Magalia Reservoir to store water savings. The wetlands would go where the sludge drying bed is. There would be a small wetlands there. The pipes would go into that, and then from there it would go wherever you wanted to put it, whether into the lake or into the water treatment plant for reprocessing. The interesting thing about this, and coming out of that, we'd have to the lake a pipe that would be corrugated galvanized steel. So it can help provide oxygen to the water. In other words, going over the ripple effect inside the pipe. Large diameter for the larger surface area, the water sample would be taken at where the pipe empties into Magalia Reservoir. Right now the sample is taken at the ponds themselves. That has to be because of the rules. Now, how can we check this out? How can a wetlands work? You guys have said, well, we'll need 6 months of trials and data. There's nothing going on. On Saturday, I walked around the 2 sludge ponds and down to the lake. There's a stream, a live stream that comes out of the north sludge pond right now. The south sludge pond is being dried up to be cleaned down. But the stream runs down into the lake. And the stream was quite interesting. It's only small right now, maybe this big around, the amount of water that's coming out. I don't see any water from any other source. They're actually walked them and looked at them, and they're wetlands. They have plants that are just that. There's special grass in there called velvet grass. There's other things. There's herbs, what have you. There's even small trees. And the soil is damp around the thing. So they're intermittent streams that empty into Magalia Reservoir. So we have a wetland or riparian way that goes down to the reservoir. Both sludge ponds have these streams. One is longer than the other. The one where it's drying up, it's still there. The plants are all alive. They've gone dormant because there hasn't been any water recently. That's the intermittent part of it. In other words, it doesn't flow all the time. And yet the wetland plants survive. And the definition of a wetland is very simple. A wetland area is saturated with water, either permanently or seasonally, such that it takes on the characteristics of a distinct ecosystem. That's what I was talking about with the wetland plants. Primarily, the factor that distinguishes wetlands from other landforms or water bodies is a characteristic vegetation, which I tried to describe to you, that is adapted to its unique soil conditions. Wetlands consist primarily of hydraulic soil, which supports aquatic plants. The suggestion I have is right now, since there's no water coming in, the People Water Quality Board said you can never use that as a system. That you have to put it in a pipe because you want to make sure anything comes in from the sides to pollute it. And right now the stream is so small and there's no extra water. It's the dry season. There's no rain coming into it. So my suggestion is that we take a sample near the lake, the high water mark, out of that stream to see if this very small wetland has any effect on cleaning up the water stream. In other words, does it take away the MBD? You're going to have to help me with these things.
Believe in some concern that the NPDES permit is
No, that concern the NPDES permit, the aluminum and the other chlorine product, which I think would.
Dibromo.
Yeah.
Is that what you're?
The dibromo.
What's the whole name for it?
I finally got where I can pronounce it.
There we go.
At any rate, it would go off as a gas over these rills, and may be doing that right now in that stream. So I would like to ask that we take some samples and compare them to the samples out of the ponds and see if there's any cleanup, if it's been effective, these minor wetlands, that I didn't know existed until Saturday. And you would do it now because the stream flow is low. You could check for making sure there's no other water resources coming into it. Actually, the shortest one to the lake is the one that is running water right now, so it would have to be very effective. And just see if we have any effects for wetland. And then on top of this would be, if we do, then we should look into an engineer, hiring an engineer like Ron Kreitz from Brown and Caldwell, who's a specialist in wetlands or ecology, whatever you want to call it, for wetlands design. Wouldn't consider it for water storage to run the water treatment plant at all. And the lifespan of these wetlands is 20 years plus. They have low maintenance. And I would think the cost to doing the little bit of work I'm talking about, I'm not talking about an acre of wetlands. I don't really know how large it would be because I don't have that kind of knowledge. But I'm guessing $3 million as opposed to $8 million. And hopefully that would be cleaned up enough that we could maintain our NPDES permit. Now, talking to the people at CWA today, they indicated just what staff's been saying to us, that in the future there will be changes in the regulations just as there has been in the past. They also indicated that I asked them about the merger of the health department part at CWA, if there's going to be any change there. They don't know of any coming. They think it's going to be held separately in two divisions, and because the law is in effect. But they wouldn't be surprised that over time they strengthen the rules on that part. So the same possibility is sitting out there as the NPDS permit. So that's the thing, and my suggestion is that we delay for 1 month on approving anything, that we test the water, review it all at next month's meeting. If the little wetlands doesn't do a job, well, I guess that's the end of it. If they do a job, then maybe we should consider going ahead and looking more at it. So we need test water to see if the wetland plan can solve our problems, a very small one, costing considerably less, and of which we have possibly $2 million available in $1,800,000 in one account, and we could pay for this thing. If it hit around that much, we could pay for it, just our things. We wouldn't have to approve a bond issue for $15 million that's in the agenda tonight. So let's give it a chance. Everybody talks about wetlands. Here's a test for you. Prove me wrong.
Well, to address your point about the plants treating the stream, Mr. Kreitz, in his Brown Caldwell report, section 3.5, says no wetlands plants are needed on the surface, which simplifies the design and operations.
That's because you had it as an equalization tank, and that's why I designed it so deep and with a gravel basis. Yeah. That's what he told me on the phone yesterday when I talked to him about it.
Does he have a species of plant in mind that can treat the aluminum salts and the dichlorobromomethane?
No, because he's not a biologist. That's why I asked in this that we have an engineer that knows how to build wetlands. Yeah. I've discovered there's all sorts of designs and just fit the site, but we'd have to hire a biologist, somebody that has experience or knowledge about wetland plants. I know wetland plants because of grazing and other things with agriculture, and that doesn't have much application. You know, there was a cattails are in part of this, and I'm going, oh, okay, that one's simple. They love water. But I don't know the rest of the plants. You could have a biology, you could go out and identify all of them and tell you what you've got. But I'm not capable of doing that.
The folks that we have on staff at AECOM that have done constructed wetlands have never seen this type of application to treat these types of...
Just to clean up water. They're all in sewage plants,
yes.
right? Yeah, and sewage plants are pretty dirty.
Yeah, and
we don't have but a couple of things we're worried about.
Yeah, and they have a lot of biological nutrients that the plants
I'm aware that they'll take up phosphorus, nitrogen, all the major nutrients we're familiar with. I don't know what they'll do with aluminum, and I don't know what they'll do with methyl bromide. Yeah. But we know that methyl bromide only has a short half-life if you expose it to the atmosphere. That we found out ourselves, Doug and I. But we really don't know the answer for aluminum. The only way you could see, to me, that's why you'd go test the water and see what you're actually getting out of it.
The aluminum is inorganic and would likely not be a nutrient for the plants. So,
oh no, there's plants that need aluminum. Aluminum is actually a very common mineral in soils. It's not a rare thing at all. Of course, it's usually not enough to mine any of it, but it's there. It's all around us. It's just a matter, and we're talking how much aluminum we're talking. Aren't we talking a very small amount?
Well, we're talking about how much solids, which are mostly aluminum salts, per year. 50 tons.
50 tons of aluminum? Wow.
It's more than
I don't think there's any.
That was more than I thought it was.
There's any plants that would.
That's why we settle out.
It would still settle out in the ponds.
We are not putting...
Suggested. You've got your settlement ponds to take the...
We're not putting 50 tons of aluminum in the Magalia Reservoir a year.
No.
Okay. Because if we would, you would drive across the dam, and that's all you'd see is aluminum. How much aluminum do we have coming out? See, I agree with, and I didn't know Bill was going to talk about this stuff, but I've asked this before. It wasn't wanted to do. I think we should test what's coming out, it was 200 gallons a minute or whatever it was, out of the bottom of the lake.
Can I be careful
Yes.
to answer? That's exactly what we test.
What-
We test what is spilling out of the ponds. All those aluminum results and the dichlorobromomethane results is what is spilling out of the ponds.
At the top of the pond, yeah.
But you also,
That isn't the only place we test, and this is where Bill's a little misled, and I've showed it to him before, and we've talked about it before. We also have to go into McGilly Reservoir, and we go upstream about 100 yards or maybe even 2, and we pull samples there, and guess what we get? Aluminum and dichlorobromomethane.
Okay.
Now, the water comes down, it dumps into a pipe that used to be under the old historic high water line, but now it's way above the water line. It trickles down the hill, just like you're talking about.
Mhm.
Tumbles, spills, everything else, but we're still picking up these constituents. They're not disappearing.
Are
Yeah,
you
they're
picking them up
very
in a
low.
high enough quality to, against the NPDES permit? Are we in violation of the NPS permit with those samples? I thought you
With
said
those
they weren't.
samples, no, but they run very close to it, and you're in the reservoir where you have so much more dilution, but you're still picking it up.
Well, I'm not saying you won't pick it up. I'm just saying.
If I were to pull that sample, Bill, before it went into the reservoir, it would still be over the limits of the permit. Guarantee it.
And that's where they ask you to pull them. They don't ask you to pull it in the reservoir after it's been.
No, they want this, I talked to them this morning about it, and I understand they want it at the end of the stream, right there, before it goes in the reservoir. And they want to, that's where they sample, and they want it in a pipe, if you're ever going to run it physically, that's why I said the corrugated pipe. They want it in a closed system, in other words, they don't want any other pollutants to get into the stream. And I'm saying, well, right now, this little stream, the way it's running, doesn't have a chance for any pollutants to go in it, unless a deer does something, I guess. But that's about it. There's nothing there, and it's a very small amount of water.
So it sounds like we have our test and we know that it doesn't work, Bill.
And when we're discharging from those ponds, we're discharging at about 1,500 gallons per minute. So it's not a nice little stream that's going to...
No, I understand when you're doing the normal discharge, it will be large, and that's the reason I said a large diameter pipe. That's it.
Bill, have we ever tested where it goes out underneath the reservoir, it goes down Little Butte Creek? After it comes out there, it's away from us. Have we ever tested that?
Okay, we do test below the reservoir.
Okay, what does that show?
We don't test for aluminum dichlorobromomethane there because they haven't asked us to. They don't care what's coming out down there. They care what's going into the reservoir. And we're way over the numbers on what's going into the reservoir.
And that's assuming they don't tighten the numbers up, which could happen.
We're over already.
I know, we're already there, so,
We're well over it.
yeah.
If they tighten it up anymore, we're just that much further in the water.
Well, Bill, you had asked a question about what's the payback on this. It's one of your favorite things to ask when there's no answer for it. But I've got an answer for you. What's the fine per day for being out of compliance if you thumb your nose at the NPDES people?
Not suggesting we thumb our nose.
That's
at
what we would be
NPDES.
doing if we aren't going to
No.
go ahead and get this done. You're suggesting we do nothing, Bill.
No, I'm
You're wanting
suggesting you
to
test
push
the
this
water.
out. I will tell you what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to push this out and delay this beyond the election that's coming up in November, so there's not going to be a vote from the board talking about spending $9 or $10 million.
No.
That's what you're doing. I think
No.
we've discussed this enough,
You've got
and I think that we
very
should
big
vote on it.
imagination down there, Ken.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes.
I've been working
Quite
on
an
it.
excellent one. You ought to write some mystery novels.
I do think there's not one of us on this board that's enthused about spending $10 million or $8 million or however much it is on this project. I wouldn't be enthused about spending $3 million if we could make that fly. But it is something that we are required to do.
Well-
We are not going to be able to get out of this by making up our own solution to it. Three engineering firms, I think, all agreed when they all sat here when we chose AECom, and not one of them voiced up that what we were proposing in the wetlands was a viable solution. They were all willing to take your money and try it, but not one of them looked confident in that it was going to be there. When I said, do you guys think this is going to work? And there wasn't a whole lot of nodding of heads or, hands raised that said, yeah, this is going to work. The consensus was it's not a viable solution. I commend Director Kellogg on finding us this solution if it had worked, but I just think it's on Serpentine is not the place you can put a wetlands. It's not. If we were in the middle of the valley, it would be a viable solution, I think. We don't have the property. We don't have the type of soil where we can have a...
Where the slab is not Serpentine. The Serpentine is above the south sewage pond on the...
Dig 1 foot down, Bill. The whole entire hill there is made of serpentine. You've watched it. I've watched it erode for, 50 years. It's the same green rock, just keeps coming to the surface year after year. That whole mountain is made of that.
Seth, I walked it, I looked at the sides and everything else. Most of that sludge drying pond is underlain with volcanic, and actually a pretty heavy piece of volcanic. So I wouldn't be surprised if these ponds aren't having some volcanic layers underneath them. The point being that I'm not saying that we ignore the NPDES permit, not at all. When I talked to the people today at the CWA, there was 3 of them I had on the phone. They're very nice people. They were very accommodating. I learned that the pipe had to be piped and so forth. And as far as they're concerned, you can take the test if you want for your own use, for your own information, and that's all I'm asking about. And as far as the time limit on it, I asked him again. I said, I understand we have several years ahead of us as long as we're still working on a solution. And we're not ignoring things. We have the time to do this. And that was one of the key things. And I'm saying 30 days. And in 30 days, if Bill's right with all this and Jim's right, then you're going to get your mechanical processor. There won't be any argument at that point. And I'm just saying, look at it one more time, bring in some tests. And
I believe when she was here, she gave us no such confirmation that she was going to be able to say, well, they're going to give you an extension. When the time's up, the time was up. And what they decide to do at that point is pure speculation.
On the phone today, Seth, and they said nothing of the kind to me. Her boss was the one I was talking to, and he said, "Oh yes, as long as you're working at it and keep at it, we'll work with you. We don't want to fine you. We want you to get a good system and one that your district can afford, and so forth." They weren't being hard-nosed regulatory. They were being accommodating and saying this thing, and told me about, well, just keep in mind you can't use a stream as part of a wetlands. You have to have it, or a drain pipe, you have to have it in a pipe.
Well, we've gone,
like this.
Bill, we've gone through, we've asked engineering firms, quality companies. We spent $25,000 on this last study, and they keep coming back with something that you don't like to hear personally. And so you're going to take your limited knowledge and say, well, I don't think we need a wetlands that's as big as what this engineering company has.
We would need.
You said it would be the sludge drying bed. We'll put a small wetlands there. You said, I don't believe the $16 million quote. You said, I think it would be more like 3 from your vast expertise. We've gone out to the professionals. We are looking at a $16 million system. We're looking at a $10 million system, or 9, or whatever it was. And that's what we should vote on. What do we think the life, they all seem to have about the same life, maybe. And as such, I think we've discussed it enough. Therefore, I move to direct the general manager and staff to negotiate a contract for final design work with AECOM and bring it back to the board for consideration.
Which one did you do?
The top one.
The top one, okay. I was going to ask, what's the difference?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved.
Before it dies.
What is the difference between them?
The difference is, it's like, and here's the analogy that I came up because I figured that this was going to be a discussion point. Dustin has said Ooh, maybe I got to be careful here. We're in open session. Let's see. If Dustin were to say, you should go sue the state of California for taking your water away, and if the board were to agree to that, we'd have two ways to go. We could say, Dustin, you're our guy in legal. Go sue him. Or we could say, holy schmolies, Dustin, that's going to cost a lot of money. He's going to say, yeah. And we're going to say, okay, we're going to get you and 2 or 3 other quality firms to bid this lawyerly advice and to bid it for suing these people. And that's the difference between the top one and the bottom one. We know what ACOM has done. We have a history with them. We have good history with them. They're into it this much. They've given us this information. I think we just go with them and say, like we would to our attorney, go get it done for us, bring it back. Well, when you get the prices, then it comes back to George, it comes back to the board. We still have to approve the expenditure. But instead of bidding it with 3 competitive bids, for example, we just tell them to negotiate the deal with ACOM, bring it back to the board for approval.
You're saying ACOM is a person who would design this project?
The final design, yeah.
They would design
Final
it.
design.
Okay, and the second one would have been requesting proposals from several different ones.
Engineering firms.
Oh, okay, so that's
Like the 3 that we had here.
I couldn't understand what the difference was. Okay.
2 months
Well, I had
ago.
to call and ask too.
You did too, huh? Okay,
That's why-
I was
that's
going to
why we-
ask tonight.
That's why we chose out of 3 engineering firms 2 months ago, 1 firm, so that we can move forward in this project that has no consequences to anybody or anything.
Okay.
What was, we never did get, what was the fine per day? $30,000, wasn't it something on that order?
I think they can do at least $1,000 a day per violation.
Okay, so it was 30,000 per month then.
One of the components is $1 a gallon.
$1 a gallon?
A gallon is the larger the number of gallons, so if it's 10,000 gallons, which is real easy to get rid of, $10,000. And that can happen in hours.
Right.
Well,
Mine's been bankrupt.
Plus the other fee, which is the minimum $3,000, plus that 10,000 gallon event that might have happened in 2 hours is $13,000.
We'd bankrupt the district and pay for this project in 1 year.
The fines are
The
structured
fines would pay for
to
it.
avoid self-help, to avoid a decision where it's easier to just pay for the fine than it is to fix the problem. So you're facing, if you go down the penalty path, it's bankruptcy. That's
Bankruptcy,
really what
okay.
it is.
But we're not proposing to do that.
Okay, so that.
Well, if you're out of compliance, Bill, that's what they do. They give you a
Well,
fine.
you're going to get it when after
They
the
don't
public
pat
does.
you on the back. They give you a fine. You're out of compliance.
Right, okay.
They
let's-
owe us nothing.
Okay, let's don't talk about the fines anymore, because we're not going to do that way anyway. We're too
You're absolutely right.
Proactive.
we're too proactive to do that, and I'm not worried
Exactly.
about the fines. All I want to do is be in compliance. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this subject before we vote on it?
Larry, may I ask a couple questions?
Yes.
Sorry, Ward. Jim, did I read your report correctly that you sought an extension?
Yes.
What did you ask? For 5 years?
No, it's not that, it's right now, it's a justification for an extension.
Okay.
They haven't specified, just, let them, they can come up with a time period, which is reasonable. We really, if things move forward expeditiously, and 2 years is, or 2.5 years maybe is what we need. So that's still not defined yet about how much time we need, so I did not address that. Just only justification for an extension.
And can you run down the justifications? Is it basically that we're considering alternatives? We're moving forward. We don't know which path we're taking, but...
Well, really, there's a lot of technical justification in the letter about our management of the watershed, our exceedances, how high our exceedances have been. There's discussion about our pollution prevention plans, our stormwater pollution prevention plans, and the fact that we have them in place. So it's a complicated letter that I use based on a template that I received from one of the ladies, Stacy, that came here and I talked to Bill today. She's only given me one. She likes the letter. She gave me one comment, which was the easiest thing I could do. I had to write down a list of the chronological decisions that the board has made since the project started. That was the easiest
How long was
question.
that list?
That was the easiest question I could have. And I'm going to, wow, that's all I have to do. I'm in there. And that's the only comment she's made.
Yeah, but will it show, if you do this, will you show how long we've been debating it?
It started back, of course, you know, it started back in 2000.
All right. Want to make sure that
10 or 11.
And George
they know we're working on it.
approached the issue with you gentlemen, and it just starts there. That was the easiest question of all the ones I had to answer.
Okay.
So how many chronological decisions has the board made on this since that time?
I have about 8.
Eight.
I think it's been to the board about that many times.
So obviously they're interested in what progress we are making.
That's right.
Right.
And that's key to them not ratcheting down fines, because we've had violations, and we've had violation letters, we have civil notices of violation. We have yet to be fined. They know why they're not going to extract these fines when they know we have to pay a large amount of money for a project. Just like kind of what Bill was alluding to that in his comments. They want to work with us.
Right.
And they will.
But they do want to see progress going forward.
Right.
Maybe not
They
sideways.
will. And in the future, there will be more stringent NPDES permits if we decide.
She told us
keep
that.
the permit, there will be way more. I could keep talking now better.
Right.
Does staff have any idea what the expense of doing a test along the lines that Bill suggests? How long would it take to complete?
I'm not sure if I actually understand.
It's a test we already do, isn't it?
And the
No.
tests we do are.
He wants you to test.
What's he want us to?
He wants you to test the water just before it goes into the reservoir.
And I'll meet with you out there and show you what I'm talking about.
It won't show any different than what we're pulling right now.
When you're pulling it when it comes right out of the pond.
We're pulling it as it rolls out of the pond.
Right, and
Into the pipe.
oh, okay, and he's saying that
Pulling it
he's
in the
saying,
reservoir.
and he's saying that,
Where we pull a different sample in the reservoir, 100 to 200 yards upstream.
And that test,
And that test shows that it's there. It's not there in the same
It
concentration.
will never be a
But
compliance
it's still
point.
there.
What he's suggesting is not a compliance point for a permit. It's the beginning of the pipe.
No, what I talked to them today, they said, yes, you could, if you build something new, like the wetland, that testing can be at the end of the pipe where it hits the reservoir. They will move the point. No, I asked them twice to make sure that was true.
Respectfully disagree that after the treatment process, so your little wetland, when it comes out of that wetland is your sample point, not at the end of the pipe.
Yeah,
I have some experience in that.
Jim, I think really Bill's point is this.
Right.
Right now, it's coming out into open air where the pipe ends, and it's bubbling down 50 foot of embankment.
Your wetland.
Okay. Bill now wants to determine how that little tiny microscopic microcosm of a wetlands, what the reading is at the top of the wetlands and what the reading is at the bottom of the wetlands, so he can know whether this little tiny guy is doing a job, and if it is, then he says, well, then let's build it big enough to do the full job. I think that's what your point is, isn't it,
right.
Bill?
Yeah.
No,
No? Okay.
no.
Well, that was the take I had on it. I think that's the take everybody in the room had on it.
All it is testing the water, I assume, under the same circumstances as you pull the out of the pond, as it's leaving the pond and going into the pipe. It would be just simply pulling a water sample out of the stream, down near the lake, as close as you could get to the high water, and you might even have to cut brush to get at it. Any rate, that's it. I'm not
That's
asking
just what
for
Ken
anything
said.
else, and see what the results are. If they're the same as what Bill has had in the reservoir, then the argument's gone.
Well, the motion on the floor, guys, is just to direct staff to formulate an agreement. You're not committing to the agreement.
Exactly.
So I was asking, does this cost $1,000? Does it cost $20,000? I mean, we can accomplish.
We could still do it anyway, even though we're doing it.
It
yeah.
can be, that can be done.
I mean, we could do the test.
Check for aluminum.
We'll do the test while we're negotiating.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
As close to the
Okay.
reservoir as we can.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And the turnaround time's quick on the test, so we'll have that result before they see
3 or so weeks.
3 weeks.
Right. And any idea? He asked how much would it cost to do it?
Saying a couple $100.
Okay. Great. Okay.
For the test?
Okay. For the
What does the
test.
lab charge you? Because, you know, I haven't read any of the last few years.
It's a running tab, right?
I've done a lot
We
of
just
testing for
keep sending them
soils
stuff
and
all the
leaf
time, you
analysis
know?
of water and all of
Yeah.
this.
5 minutes.
Not like you go, how much was that one test?
Can of silicone?
So, Bill, I wouldn't think it'd be that much, because I've done, over the years, I've done nutrient testing for several nutrients, leaf testing, soil testing, water testing, in an agricultural sense, you know.
Okay. We're off the subject.
Yeah, let's,
We're not, because he's talking about the price of
Yeah, but
testing,
we're-
so it couldn't be.
I said I do not know.
He said he didn't
Did
know.
not know.
So
I appreciate it.
that's it. So it's been answered. Okay, Ward. Let's talk about the motion.
Thank you. This topic has been around now for several months, and you know, even though I'm the only member of the public here tonight, there are members of the public ratepayers that are concerned. Have you got $10 million to do this? And if you don't, where are you going to get it? Because ratepayers care about how much things cost.
Aren't you going to kick it in?
Sit around, it's on the agenda.
Aren't you going to kick it in?
Not out of my pocketbook.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak to this motion from the audience? Seeing none. Okay. Then further discussion from the board.
Yes, I have some comments.
Doug wants to make some
I've been
comments
waiting, I
before we
appreciate
vote.
getting out here. And I'm not speaking in favor of the wetlands. In fact, the thing that got me on the wetlands is on page 17, and I think you got this out of Lee and Rowe, almost word for word. Nevertheless, PID will install a gravel filter at its own risk in case the scheme does not provide the performance needed to treat water to less than 2 NDU. This risk is low. This risk is low. And you must agree with it, because I think it's, yes, in your report here, but it was also in Lee and Rowe. This risk is low as the current sludge ponds return decanted water meetings to the turbidity criteria most of the time. But see, we would be building a pretty expensive wetland just to try it out. You know, and so that's one of the things. See, that's the one that stymied me, and I've built some wetlands only strictly for wildlife. That's what we were after, to use the effluent for wildlife. John Cowan, and if you've ever been to Butte, you see the sign on the wall there. Yeah, they do that at Chico right now. They have a 35-acre wetland, and when I was doing some work at M&T, we did some of this stuff. And they did it strictly for birds. And I remember when they were putting it in, this was the 70s, when they were putting it in, people were talking about it, and now, as I understand, the Audubon Society thinks it's the greatest thing since bread and butter or canned beer, I was going to say on here. But anyway, here's my comments. I got involved with this, and apparently we've been wrestling this as a board since 09 or 07 or some such matter. Well, I became acquainted with it on September 19th, 2012. This is the minutes. And an engineer by the name of Roger came and gave a presentation wherever we were sitting over on a different side over there, and talked about option 1 and 2 to solve our problems. And during the discussion, and this is the minutes, the staff, which I'm looking at and have the highest respect for, indicated neither option is workable. Either option is workable. Option 1 is probably the better, and 2, there is a security concern, all kinds of stuff over here. And it was moved, and it would have been a 2.89 mil for option 1 and a 2.93 mil for option 2, and it was moved and approved. The only person that didn't vote for it was Director Hall, because he wasn't here. And to direct Lee and Rowe to proceed with option 1. And President Duncan, who was not president at that time, moved that, and seconded by Kellogg at this particular point. 4 months later, I wasn't on the board. I was just out there as a public member, knowing I had already put my hat in the ring to run. And so here's the minutes for it. And
4 months later from
3
September?
or 4 months later, it was after I was seated, so it must have been January.
Oh, okay.
I got that at home.
Now I know
Roger
what
came back, and it had gone to 7 million, over 7 million, pushing 8. And it was when I told him, because I had my seat here, and I said, Roger, if I had done that type of a presentation to one of my clients, which I was working on today, but not near that kind of dollars, I would have been embarrassed to come and tell them that all of a sudden, in 3 or 4 months or whatever it was, it went from 3 mil to 8 mil. And then that's when I piped up and said, we're looking at a $10 million project. Now, I don't know where the hell I came up with that, other than I've worked with state things since 1960. Well, anyway, and that's apparently what it's going to be on here, no matter what we go on that particular point. And so I put that up. And then we're up to here, and we spent $250,000, I guess, or some such amount on account, and you're 25. Your charge is 25 for this, right? Okay. So 25,000 on here. Now, I started watching this stuff back in the 70s, because I was in agriculture up here. I was doing some work for orchards. There was a lot of orchards, the same thing. And in 83, they built a water treatment plant. And they did it, and as I remember, because I was attending the meetings trying to get more water, and I was looking at it from the agricultural side, I was irrigating a lot of ground myself. And I'm not irrigating anything now. Not a drop. Well, maybe a couple of drops. But anyway, and so I was interested in it, and they were wrestling 83's project like we are, best intentions and all of that. And they built it. And the reason they built it, and these guys will see this, I got one of the copies if you'd like to have it, and they only did it for the water coming in and off, and the state shot them out of the saddle. In 93, they built another one, which we just paid off this year. It's called the Water Expansion Plan, and I found out from very reliable sources and knowledgeable sources that they could have solved a lot of the problems that we're wrestling now in 93 or 4 that we're paying off this year. You see, and they didn't do it because who knows why. I wasn't involved in 94s because I said to hell with it by then. Although I knew I was going to be running for this office sometime. Damned if 2014 came along and I ran. Well, anyway, so going back to 2012 when I first observed it, and up to this point when all 3 of you were here, and you remember I mentioned, I thought you were Joe, but you're Joe. You were the one who was here with us before, isn't it? Correct. Okay, so and I thought you were Joe.
That told you shouldn't spend $25,000.
That's right, he did. And I was also the one that told you.
What reason was that?
It's a short circuit. I was the first to tell you, because when Roger came back, and I think I already mentioned that, with the 7-8 million, I said to Roger, I've been embarrassed. I was going to repeat myself. But anyway, I don't want to repeat that same mistake. And I was going for the longest period that we could have, and apparently 20 years is it. In other words, just like an old truck or whatever, it'll go to wear out in 20 years. But if we do it properly, we will have maybe a $3 to $5 million replacement, because we most likely won't even have it paid off 20 years. I won't be worrying about it, I can assure you that. See the gray hair up here. But anyway, we'll be paying off. So what I'm after, and these guys know this because I've met with them and I have the highest respect for them, and I'm not criticizing anyone, just looking at it through rose-colored lenses or some damn thing. We need to really evaluate this. So I don't want to vote on this. I'm not going to abstain. I guess if I vote no and there was enough no votes, then it would stop in its tracks. But I know we're going to have to continue on with this. The young lady told us that they were not going to cancel the permit. They would be very happy to extend it as long as we're working on it. And ladies and gentlemen, we are diligently working on it. Maybe a lot of it's just bull splattering and flapping our jaws, but we're still working. You can put that in the paper too if you want to. Working on it, you see. So what I would like to do, and it has nothing to do with what Kellogg was talking about, we need to further look at this. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go to one of these plants. There must be one pretty close. And I'll do it on my own money and my own time and watch them, just kind of like I did the one down at Butte College, okay? And see what's happening and ask questions right there. Because basically, the five of us are signing the check. The group at 83 was criticized in here because of the fact that they didn't do their homework. And then on the back is one of his papers of what we're supposed to be doing as directors. And they say we got it right. The budget's the only thing that we control. Yet, don't want to control anything.
I think we've done about 4 years of homework on this. I don't know how much more homework before the big final that we can put into this.
Well, apparently we haven't done enough. Because I'm afraid we're going down the same road and we're not going to have a system that won't repeat history from 83 and 84.
I think it was already
Because
said
the
that this
people that were
system's
working on it at that
expandable.
time, wait a minute. The people that were working on it at that time were as sharp as any of us in this room. They didn't have the technology then that we have now. But using the technology of 83 and 94, they were as sharp as we are.
How much was that project in 83?
I don't know what it cost, but we just paid it off last year, didn't we?
10 million or so?
Well, that was the last one.
And we're paying, the only reason.
What was the 93 project?
The only reason that we're paying 94s off this year, and I got it here in my book.
So even back then, we found financing for $10 million. Huh.
The only reason we're paying off the 94 project is because it's from Department of Water Resources, and we voted last time to pay it off, so this $500,000 a loan that goes through them would make it smoother. So we're doing it. And right now, for our capital projects, we are running at a deficit. Our capital projects are making us bring out the deficit.
Okay.
And we're going to lose about $1 million out of our reserve because of running into that. So
That was from a rate decision a couple of years ago, but that's a whole other topic. We might want to get to voting on the actual topic at hand at some point tonight, because there's been a motion on there's a motion on the
Okay,
table.
but, so what you're basically, your thing is you're telling us why you're against it. Okay,
why I'm against it, and
Okay.
why I'm not going to vote.
right, okay.
Because of the fact I think history could be repeated.
Okay, now the thing is I think you missed the whole point of 83. The reason, it wasn't the board's fault, it was the voters' fault. The voters would not approve the money for the big plan. It wasn't the board, it was the voters. They voted on whether they accept the filtration plan, and they voted it down.
Not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
you're 100% correct.
Right. So don't blame the board.
No. The board is the bottom line.
Right, but they
The
did.
board is the bottom line, and we have to listen to our voters. That's why, in fact, I was talking to Kevin. I think the next thing we should do, we know it's going to cost us $10 million, or maybe 15 if we're going to pass this next time. I think we ought to find out from 218 if the voters are going to approve it. That would be the next thing. The stuff that we talked about from the Mosquito Abatement District, before they did anything, they calculated up what it's going to cost, even though it's $11 a year.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. The motion on the table right now is just to pick an engineering firm, not a project,
not
a
committing any money.
project, alternative
Yeah.
3, but not a cost or who we're going to go with at the very end as far as the construction or what the actual cost is going to be, right? We're not picking that.
Right.
This is, their report says $9.8 million.
The only thing this vote does is direct us to negotiate the
To
contract
keep moving
with
forward.
AECom, to bring back to you to decide if you want to approve it or not.
Right, and it gives him
So
another.
if you don't vote for them,
gives him another
then we
thing
still
to put
don't
on
have
his
any
letters
answers.
of our action.
We're voting to have them give us some answers that you're looking for.
Right.
Not to start a $10 million project just right at this. I mean, we haven't picked the project because they still have to work out the details of it.
Okay.
It's very well stated. It's really very well stated here in this.
Well, is it pertinent because his
As to
wasn't?
what you're talking about, it's either we vote for putting out the 3 people or 1, and it's a $10 million project or thereabouts. And my thing is that kind of money, we should give it out to bid. As good business people.
2 months ago, we had the same bid.
I'm not saying there will be one of the 3 bidders, but that way you have some competition and you see what's coming, and that's it.
2 months ago, we had the same 3 people here. The competition was here. We chose
What
AECom.
we're talking about, not for this.
Also,
It's
Bill,
the exact, oh my
In
God.
fact, a lot of what the figures that they provided us was Lee and Rose, and Lee and Rose been taken off the bid list for some reason.
A lot of the facts that Lee and Rowe got came from our guys, if I'm not mistaken. So Lee and Rowe, pretty much, you were talking about somebody getting facts from somebody else. A lot of their facts came right directly from our guys.
Well, I'm not.
They didn't do as much work on it as I think
It's a good
I think they
idea to have
did.
3 bids on something as big as this, and it's going to last as long as it's going to be, and make it a fair thing. And I imagine, I can't even pronounce your name or your business, I'm sorry, but that you probably will end up with a bid. You're going to be the most knowledgeable bidder. So you would know better how to sharpen a pencil than probably your competitors. But I think to do our job as board members responsibly for the community, that 3 bids would be more.
You're bidding on an engineering firm, Bill. We're still going to bid on a construction company, correct? That's where you want to have your 3 companies, at the construction phase of it. If we don't have an engineering company, we're never going to have a construction project.
If you don't,
We already had 3 engineering companies here. We picked AECom. Now it's time for them to get working so we can pick a construction company that will come back with the numbers that you want to see, a competitive bid. But if we don't ever get to an engineering company, then we're never going to get to that next step.
not saying not
It's
to
time to take a step towards engineering.
okay, well, he's made his point.
Mine is pertinent. Working with the staff, which you couldn't find a better staff, this is where Roger made a mistake on this first one that I was telling you about. He didn't talk to the staff, and even though, that was a big mistake for him right there. He's aware of that. Maybe that's why he's in Folsom now. Not in prison, but in the town. He's thoroughly enjoying himself. Thoroughly enjoying himself in town, I'm sure. Having all kinds of free lunches and one thing or another.
Now, how is this pertinent?
But, it's very pertinent.
When he gets around to it.
Anyway,
Let's go then.
Get to the point, please.
I'm trying to get to the point. You keep interrupting me.
Yeah, let him tell his story and get done with that, and then we can get to the point.
Our stories always contain.
No.
Leave the story
How
out.
much do you think it will cost? You said $25,000.
Oh, he wants you to bid
for
it.
this one little thing. What? Or you got any idea what we're looking at? The project.
Whether if we just assume that everything that Lee and Rowe has done previously is valid and we can go straight into a preliminary design, that would be on the low end. We can go in and sharpen the pencil on alternative 3, maybe bring in elements of the other alternatives that you guys have looked at.
What? Okay, another one. This is pertinent, no story. Last time you suggested we don't spend the $25,000. Okay. What I'm thinking.
Best suggestion I had heard in this whole
we
project.
have, with all the information that we've gathered up here and the knowledge of the staff that we have and the one we're sent way in the back, George, I don't think at this point in time we need to hire some other outside help. I think you have, with yourself and the other people, a staff that can accomplish this.
No, we can't.
You need detailed specs for bidders.
Yeah.
No, we're not talking about the specs. We're talking about the.
We need an engineering firm.
Even if we had the capability and the time, because, yeah, we could do it if that's all we had to do for the next 9 months.
You're going to be very
We could
busy.
do it, but the holes we're gonna miss, the things we're gonna miss because we don't do this day in and day out, are gonna multiply when the contractor starts bidding, and you're not gonna save the time, it's probably gonna cost you.
Well, I'm not talking about putting out the paper that, the plan that'll go to the contractor to bid on. I'm talking about putting it here, but maybe we're that far along.
No, that's where
That's
we're
what
at.
we're talking
We're
about.
at the engineering. We are hiring an engineering firm tonight. We are
Let
either
me-
choosing between 3 or hiring one.
To
It's
create-
on the motion is to hire
Let
one.
me add an amendment then to this, where it says here to design alternate number 3 and pull
Number-
samples.
Number 3 isn't even in the motion.
It's up above, Doug. It's the top one.
Oh, it's the top one. To negotiate a contract for the final design with, okay, yeah, bring it back to the board for consideration. Oh, in other words, what you're going to be doing is just figuring out what you're going to charge us and bring it back to us.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
But also, somebody mentioned on taking some samples like Director.
Oh, well, that's a different.
That's us. We're doing that. That's not AECom. That's our guys. You're looking at the two guys back there. They're going to do the testing.
That's not in the contract.
That's not in the contract. Okay, so.
Larry, let's do the question.
Okay,
Roll
call, please.
Really, Larry, you're gonna call for the vote so early?
Yeah, it's so early.
So early.
Heck, it was 10 o'clock.
Director Crowe?
Yes.
Oh, boy, you don't know what, you get involved with this board.
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
I said I wasn't going to vote, but I'm going to vote yes.
Director Kellogg?
Well, I'm getting tired of listening, so I'll vote yes. I'd really rather vote no and get three, but I don't want any more talking.
President Duncan?
Yes, passes unanimously. Okay.
We're moving one step closer.
Meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, towards everything else goes into old business.
How about a break?
I don't have it. There's none.
Want a break? We've only been in.
When I first started attending.
Okay,
these
we'll be
as a
back here
member,
at 20 after.
Hell, at 11 o'clock, they were just getting started, going into closed session, and I went home.
Everyone here?
God
Okay.
help us, yes.
The next item on the board is customer information. Not education. Customer information. This is an outdoor landscaping videos. Manager Barber.
Yeah, you have my written report. I'm going to turn this one over to Doug to introduce our consultant.
Good, thank you, George. As you're aware, the Conservation Committee have planned 2 workshops. The first one was for the large users and contractors and landscapers, and it worked out really well. And we planned one for the residents, and we didn't have enough takers to where they put it on, so we canceled it or proposed it. And then Ward actually came up with the idea that it would really be very beneficial if we put a video together that we could run on our website and wherever we wanted it. And so George and I had met what to do, as he mentioned here, and we feel that this would be a very good way of posting in the lobby or wherever it happens to be to reach the largest number of customers. In fact, this will reach, we were talking about 50 in each workshop, which would have been 100 if we'd had a full house like we did for the first one. But this way we'll undoubtedly reach quite a large number, and with the, in fact, I got the paper right here with what's coming out of the state and other places, it would be something to continue on. And, on the back page, then we would have, the production would be done by the Cedar Creek. I've helped put some of these on in the past of this type down at Butte, but we always had a crew that would just come in and did it. And this is what Cedar Creek would actually be doing. And Ward's idea, the video topics could include composting by Ward as an accomplished certified composter, irrigation uniformity, and Mike species. He's already working on a bunch of areas there. And then lawn preparation, I've been able to catch up with Jerry Minden. And then lawn care and dry times, we'll pick out, and vegetable and flower gardening, the dry times, and we have some very capable people in the community and in the Paradise Garden Club. And it'd be no more than 7.5 hours per video, and you're talking, Tanya, do you want to speak to it now? Or Mark? Got a comment?
When you said 7.5 hours per video,
well, that's what they...
Or 7 half-hour videos.
No.
7.5 hours.
That's the work time, not to.
Okay. Okay. Well, no. I thought it was 7 half-hour videos, or did he say 7.5 hours?
I should have stopped talking before that. They would most likely be 10 to 12 minutes, and they can watch all of them at one time or different sections. Mark?
Yeah, the proposal was, Director Fletcher gave a good background there. And we were asked to give an estimate as to what we would see charging for taking on the project. And I wanted to be real clear with the board that the bid was it was a not to exceed bid. And it's one of those things where I learned from a contractor friend a long time ago. He says, you work with me on an hourly basis and you get the best deal. If you make me bid on your construction project, I've got to pad it a little bit to cover the contingencies. So this was a worst case scenario. We both, Tanya and I, figured it would cost less to actually do the production of the videos. And I think the concept is a good concept. There are a lot of advantages, I think, to doing something locally made, locally focused. The seminars, the idea of having the workshops was a very good idea. It worked very well with the smaller group of providers of services because we reached a very high percentage of those people in a single meeting. And we had a one-on-one interaction. We had an opportunity to build considerable relationships with those people. We began to know who they were, and they got to know who we are, and that we're all in this together trying to accomplish the same thing. We're trying to save water. And just as an aside, I'm gonna take my cue from Director Flesher here. I'm going to do a little aside. Tanya and I were down in Irvine for the last week. We went down to see the new grandbaby and see Tanya's mom. And I took to walking through my mother-in-law's neighborhood, and it was astounding. I mean, everything down there is irrigated. Not just people's homes, but roadsides, ditches are irrigated with all kinds of plants and things. It's crazy. I was walking down this little kind of an open, kind of a wetlands area. They actually had cattails growing down there, and it was a runoff in the wet times for a spring. And the water company, it was El Toro Water Company, El Toro Water District, obviously used that as a source, but sometimes of the year it overflowed, so it was a little stream. You come up to a tree this big around, big old tree, some type of a conifer, and at the bottom of that tree, there was a sprinkler head. And all that stuff's irrigated all the time. And you walk through the neighborhoods.
At 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, you walk through the neighborhoods and people are watering their lawns and it's running into the gutters and stuff, I actually saw water flow uphill, I thought.
Are you torturing us with this?
No.
No.
This is a really great story, Mark.
I'm getting back at Doug here. No, but seriously, it was just such a contrast because I know what we're trying to do up here, and we're all working together, and we all take it very, very seriously. And down there, it just doesn't seem to have occurred to them yet.
Where was this?
That's because they have
Irvine.
It's because they have Northern California as their water source.
Well, they must be paying for this water some way because there's a bunch of money being just wasted. Not to mention the resource of the water.
But they don't break it out. It's always when I lived in Fullerton, we didn't pay for water, but we did.
I saw sprinkler heads along the public thoroughfares where they're irrigating things, and the plants have died. Some of these areas, the plants have died along the fence. There's 80% of it's still there. They didn't have sprinkler heads that didn't have sprinkler heads, and when those suckers turned on, they were just shooting up into the air. So it was pretty amazing anyway, quite a contrast. But to get back to the discussion at hand, we take conservation very seriously. Well, okay, I saw a figure this morning that in Southern California, with this whole drought situation going on and everything that people are trying to do to conserve water, that the water usage in SoCal has gone up over 8%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I am really tickled to be part of a situation up here where we've decreased water usage in our district by 31%. That's a pretty amazing contrast. Yeah. So anyway, contrasting how the other half lives and how we live up here where there's an abundance of water. Yeah. Anyway, back to the proposal. So first of all, this was not a proposal that was a flat proposal, but it was a proposal to cover a worst-case scenario. We probably could have done this for less. I think it would have been an effective way. It is an effective way to reach people. I'm going to offer a little proposal for an alternative for the board's consideration, a less costly proposal, perhaps.
Unlike a single seminar, we're going to be able to use this over and over again, too.
Well, that's true. And, it made sense when you were working with a group of professionals that numbered under 100. But when you're talking about 15,000 people you might want to reach at 100 people a shot, your return on investment.
We can play these at the senior center. We could, there's all kinds of venues you could play these at. The garden club could.
Sure.
If they have an event.
Right. No, it could be done, but the cost is much more considerable compared to having the professionals here on a one-shot deal. So anyway, and the idea I think was, since there was not much of an interest apparently, that we would go with the video route and make it available. And part of the challenge from our point of view, from a community relations point of view, is that what went wrong? Why didn't people want to come? And I would say that probably we could have approached the promotion of that workshop a little bit differently, but that costs money too.
It was out there.
cost
I
money
mean,
to promote it as well. And we'll have to also look at the cost of promoting the videos or whatever you guys decide to do. So anyway, so we were actually looking at $3,562.50 as the maximum on those 5 videos, and that was a not to exceed situation.
Mark?
Yeah.
Will PID own these videos when you're done?
Of course.
Okay, so
Everything-
if PID wanted to sell the videos, we could do that.
Yeah, anything we produce for PID belongs to PID.
Actually, would the video not be in the public domain?
It's a public record.
We can't own something, we can't sell something.
Public pay
because
for it?
It's public record.
Oh, we have to give it away?
so we have to make a copy.
We can charge for the
Duplication.
the
Duplication.
costs,
Oh, okay.
but not the time the person is duplicating it, only the cost of the media.
Yeah, $5 a disc or whatever. Yeah.
But,
I read somewhere that, well, that's off topic.
well, I know that there would be different organizations
Ken, I wanna
that
hear a
would
story.
want to put this
Heard one from everybody
in their
else.
foyer or wherever, and, have it for people to watch and,
Sure.
and,
Well, it would also be useful, at some point down the road, we want to develop a speakers bureau.
Yeah.
And we also, that would be something that a club or organization could choose to supplement the speaker, for example. So there's multiple uses for it, and it would have a longevity that would far exceed one workshop, obviously.
Oh, yeah,
So in
absolutely.
that sense, it's an investment that would continue to produce until it was out of date and had to be redone. I think too, the one thing we keep in mind in doing community relations is what is the main purpose of this. Now, obviously, we want to change people's water use behavior through education. But more important than that, can any board member give me a sense of what's more important than that we'd be accomplishing? Say in the workshop that we did, what was more important there that we accomplished?
Conservation
Untapped.
education.
You're building relationships.
oh, yeah.
Our water, our future, and if we keep talking to people all the time and we're not having the opportunity to interact with people, then we're not doing our job completely.
Every once in a while, I'll run into a landscaper at Ace or
Yeah,
someplace like that, and they'll mention the workshop.
Exactly. I think it allows people to get an ownership of things. So there's advantages to making it personal and making it local. But I wanted to offer you an idea that might be a little less expensive if that's what the board wants to do. It's entirely up to you guys, of course. Instead of creating the videos here using local resources, local experts, to put this thing together and make it a paradise video, there's a lot of stuff on the internet that can be accessed. And what I was thinking of today was that we could take our website and we could take a topic. We've got composting, Ward. That was the number one topic. There's 4 others, and our plan was to invite Mr. Habriel to work with us on that and maybe give him a little bit of time in front of the camera or whatever, and get something that would be recognizably local. But if you go online and you type in composting YouTube, you come up with 2.9 million hits. Okay, and they're not all good, but there's a few good ones in there, I'm sure. And so what we could do, if we wanted to be more economical, and that's always important too, would be to have a topic on the website, composting, written, downloadable, printable at home, write up on that. And we've already done some of those materials, so it'll be very easy to adapt it or even use some of those materials. And then also have links to a couple of the best YouTube videos. We could easily go through, spend some time, and kind of find some that really pertain to maybe our locale and so forth. And then maybe even, depending on what resources we might have available, or if they'd be willing to work with us, post on the website a couple of local folks that would be willing to consult on composting. I'm sure Ward would be probably willing to do that in that situation. I haven't asked him yet.
But let me ask, God, Dale, you're getting more windy than I am. And I say that as a
come on
compliment.
now, Doug.
I say that as a compliment.
Oh, he's been listening to you tonight.
Well, and other places.
I don't even think he's in the ballpark with you.
It's contagious. But in this particular case of composting, Ward would be the key presenter, right? On the video.
The video we were talking about, we were going to approach him with that. I haven't had a chance yet to talk to him because we don't know what the board wants to do. So, exactly.
Okay.
So that would be the concept, and we would apply that same concept to the other 4 topics as well. On the website, downloadable, printable at home, summary, information, probably some graphics, maybe some photographs, but not a video. And then link to existing videos that are out there by the University of Michigan or wherever. Bill?
Don't go to Michigan. We have a Mediterranean climate. It's the only one in the country. A lot of the things we grow here are because we have the Mediterranean climate. So stay with the Mediterranean
Well, absolutely.
climate.
We'll find something that's pertinent to our
Don't go to
situation.
Michigan. No, you'll get so much misinformation.
I'm not going down to UC Irvine either. I'm an old anteater myself, but we're not learning a thing from them.
You stay with our climate here is Mediterranean.
So the proposal, he's actually doing this to me. Can you believe it? The proposal, I think his beard's itching.
I'm just scratching.
The proposal
Those are
basically
time
to
to cut
do
it.
that as compared to creating these videos in-house would be about half the cost. So that is an alternative, and again, that would be a worst-case scenario, maximum, depending. It could end up being less than half, but that's our estimate for doing the alternative proposal.
Well,
So a
basically,
question for you in regard to the lifespan of a YouTube video. Where do they go?
We have an account, and they live on the internet, and
They live on the internet.
They live in the
you have to
cloud.
feed them, you have to
They
pay
live in
them.
the cloud.
Yeah, but
If you get enough hits, you actually get a contract where they put ads on it and they pay you for it. But, that probably won't happen with a composting video.
But I want to know if whoever put that on there can take it off.
Well, you can take them off, yeah.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you put
then-
them on.
We can update it, that sort of thing.
If we just put a link to it, then somebody else who owns it takes it off. We're gone. It's not available.
That's true, and that's a very good point. You've got to maintain your website. You've got to maintain your links. Anytime we're out on the web using that as a tool, it's really important. And I think the staff does a pretty good job here. I've only a couple times run into dead links on the PID website, and we'll be using the same diligence with the conservation website as well. Bill?
Over 20% of our people in the community are retired, and I would guess 25% don't use computers, even to this day. And so to me, I would say do your videos, and they can go 2 ways with it. It's very cheap, I know, to go on the internet, but we got to have something if we're going to do this. The goal is to educate our customers.
Right.
So the video.
Well, you're going to link the videos, right?
Should be
What's that?
available.
You're going to link the videos from the website. They'll be able to click on the videos right from there.
If we create the videos...
And they can have a couple of
basically the same
YouTube links,
access
too.
route. We're going to be accessing the videos through our website, and it's either going to be a remotely produced video from some common source, or it'll be ours. I'm just saying that the stuff that's out there already could save probably about 50% on the stated cost of this project. And it's up to you guys to decide if it's going to be as effective that way or not. That's the question, I think.
George, I had a question. This is a good question, George, I'm sorry. The computer carols that are going to be in the office for accessing with Aquahawk,
Yes.
these only access Aquahawk, but I understood they were also going to have some conservation messaging on
Yeah,
it.
the videos could play on there.
Could we make it
Yeah.
so that those videos played in there? Okay.
We can also, I don't know what the cost would be, if we develop the in-house video, we could put them on a DVD and hand them out to those that aren't on
Sure.
the internet as well.
Yep,
So
yep, that's true.
That's what are we really making videos or DVDs?
Well, you saw the Kids Fishing Day video.
Yeah, but was it
And
a
I would have
DVD or was it
by
a
that.
video?
It's a generic term, basically includes moving pictures.
Okay.
And it can be done by internet or by an actual DVD disc. So someone could take and play on their television.
A lot of people don't have video players anymore. And
No,
why-
that's very true. No,
Well,
I
not
didn't mean-
not video. He's saying DVD system.
it would be a
video.
DVD is what we would be.
Is any of this qualified, George, for what John Gulserian got us?
I think we've tapped him about drought.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if there was more funds available or not, but
We'll try.
What about
because we're producing videos that could be used in multiple
We can try, but
districts.
Oh, I have a question for you.
Yeah, Ken.
If you find, if we go this route and you go and you do the research and you find a video that's on YouTube, can we go to, is there some way to contact the owner of that video and then purchase the right to have our own copy and play
I
it
assume
here?
you would have to do that if you wanted to provide them on DVD. That would be correct.
Okay, well, I think we should look into that
And if
also.
it's a situation like PID creating online content, someone could call the office here and say, I loved your kids' fishing day video. Can you give me a DVD? And yeah, so it kind of depends on the source. If it was done by a professional movie production firm, then you'd be paying for that DVD, sure.
But now if somebody calls in and wants it,
Yeah, but see,
we generally...
Go to my office and watch it. I'll
I
turn it
think
on.
it would be cheaper that way, all the work's already done.
Oh, that's
And then we control the source, and we can play it for as long as we want to, even if they pull it.
George, like if somebody walks in and wants to buy one or all four, or however many we come up with, we would be able to be reimbursed for the cost of the DVD and what else, kind of like the
Just
novel.
the DVD.
Well, yeah, you could sell them for $1. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
many
whatever
people
it
are
is.
going to buy them, but it's going to be about $1.
If they wanted them, we could.
Or if they wanted them, you could decide to clean them out.
Well, anyway, George and I thought that after we were very disappointed we had to cancel that residential because of the public relations that we felt it
I
was
don't know.
best. And
Wait.
were you done?
No, he's not. No, he's not done.
We're on that topic. We
We're
need
still on that
to decide which way we're going to go.
Any other questions for me?
Yeah, what's your rate per hour?
$95 an hour is the shop rate.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Are we back to your $3,500? Thank you. What?
I wish I could get that for building fences.
Yeah.
Are you,
I wish I could get it for all the time we put in all this different stuff, but that's the shop rate.
Are you at $3,500 or not to exceed $4,000?
I think it says 4,000. The actual
Yeah.
total is 35.
This is contractor pad.
I would like to make a
approximately
motion.
half of
Larry.
that would give you the public.
Which way do we want to go? Do we want to go with them producing originals, or?
Before we get
I would-
on to something.
I'm going to move approval for Cedar Creek Publishing to develop customer education videos as presented in their proposal in the amount not to exceed $4,000
Please add the internet to it, if you would.
with, okay, it's implied with internet links.
We'll do that. That's part of the.
Okay, yeah.
Develop, yeah.
That way we don't have to make an
I'll
amendment.
second it.
Okay.
Question.
Okay, no, we have somebody in the public who likes to speak.
Oh, Ward again. Okay, Ward.
As I started this evening, there is an issue of perception of what good water districts do. Now, we do, but there is still some perception in Paradise that we're just another government bureaucracy spending ratepayers' money. We made great points with the workshop for professional landscapers. We didn't pull off the one for homeowners. This one, and done locally, is another way to make that connection, as Mark was saying. It gives us a great credibility, I think, with our ratepayers to say, these are local folks that plant and grow locally and do these things to keep their yard happy and healthy. I do 2 workshops a year publicly at the Grange now instead of at Chico State. Chico State used to require me to do it for 3 hours when I could really cover it in 2.5 because some students were there for units. At the Grange in 2 hours, one of the things we explain is that if you grow something, you want to grow a happy, healthy plant. Why? A happy, healthy plant is more naturally disease and pest resistant. It needs less attention when it's a healthy plant. Plants need plant food and fertilizer, compost as a soil amendment, and mulch to avoid evaporation of the water we give it. Very simple things to do. Now, I'm going to take about 12 to 15 minutes to cover that in Mark's video, however we want to present it. And it's going to be very direct, very simple, very easy to understand information. And I come from a professional's expertise here. I am a certified master composter. I've been teaching this stuff for a long time, and I'm the star of the video, Do the Rot Thing, The Simple Art of Home Composting, which has been available since 1996. Tens of thousands of copies all over the state, way beyond the boundaries of Alameda County, who limited its production to members of Alameda County. Every library in the state picked it up. Every school in the state picked it up. And I'm happy to say it is still one of the most popular 28-minute videos on how to do home composting. Better than anything else you see on the internet, because it is a very simple process. You know what nature says? If it's organic, it'll decompose.
Okay.
Well, you got a yes vote from me. There you go.
All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed?
I'll say aye.
You want an aye? Okay.
I'll say yes.
Passes 5-0.
All righty.
Next item is
That's me.
Transmittal of delinquent water charges to Butte County.
No?
Skipped one.
Did I skip one? No, I
Yep,
didn't.
you want C.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Okay, I'm sorry.
Skip the
I
15
checked
the
it out,
15
yeah.
We just spent a lot of time on that subject already.
Declaration
So.
of reimbursement costs for the processed water recycling project. Treasurer Phillips.
This is a resolution by the board so that the board has the opportunity to get reimbursed from borrowed funds for any expenses that they might spend on the project that is going to be borrowed for. So what the state makes you do is make a kind of a declaration of what you're going to do. You put an estimate in there for your dollar spent. Every person, normally our bond council puts this together. I put it together for the board. The bond council always says increase it by take 50% or 33% or whatever you're going to do and add it to it. And just to give you that room, doesn't mean you're going to spend it. But if you were to spend it, then you still have that option of reimbursable expenses. So it's basically take a real high estimate and throw that in there. So that's why it's 15 million. I'm not saying this is, you're not voting on spending 15 million for the project. You're just voting on having expenses reimbursed to you for a project that is specific called the process water recycling project.
Anybody in the public wish to speak to this subject?
I have a question, Larry.
Okay.
If AECom costs $200,000, then theoretically the future project bond funding could reimburse the district for that out of the borrowing.
Future bond funding actually can reimburse the way because they can look at 18 months.
Okay. Any other
What
discussion?
you're saying is we'd use borrowed money to pay for stuff we paid for out of general funds?
That's correct.
Right, we
You
get,
have the ability to
general fund gets reimbursed.
borrow funds to reimburse us for funds that have already been paid for this project.
This isn't in any way giving permission to any, I read it in
Nope.
here, it says it's not giving permission to any kind of project at all. It's just a way to get ready for financing, is that what it is?
That's correct.
So we still have to go through an election and so forth?
We still have to go through if we were to issue bonds, we would still have to go through the bond issuance process. And any type of bond you're going to issue is going to require an increase. That's going to happen before you issue bonds. So we're still a ways away from issuing debt. It takes a lot more votes to issue debt than just this.
Right, but so why is this necessary if we're that far away from needing debt?
Because you're able to capture funds that you've already spent.
Because we're spending funds already.
For debt that you might issue into the future. If you don't do this.
We're basically declaring to the state our intent to do this.
Is it?
And without
from
it,
this point
we can't
on?
be reimbursed.
Is it from this point on?
No, it looks back 18 months.
Okay,
18
so
months?
anything we've spent already. Okay.
We're actually kind of knocking up against that because Liam Rowe's contract a while back.
Mm-hmm, right.
And what is water system project?
Basically, it doesn't limit you to just that one specific project. Let's say you did the water recycle project, but you wanted to do a new line inside of the treatment plant to
Change B reservoir?
No, that's kind of
Prepare for it.
You could
Let's just
but
say prepare for it.
You could prepare for it, or you wanted to do something that was connected but wasn't specific. You could borrow for those funds also and get reimbursed for those funds also. So what you do is you kind of specify the project and then kind of give some leeway to be able to.
What
use
about,
other funds.
what about staff costs? Can we get,
Normally those aren't included in reimbursable.
they're not
bond
reimbursed?
funding.
Oh, okay.
Grant funds, yes, but not bond funds.
Okay.
The question I was gonna ask, don't we have the ability to say, like, transfer money out of the capacity fee if it's directly related to it? Because I know one time we were talking about taking $200,000 out of that capacity fee and putting it in.
Yes, and we can allocate those capacity fees for that, or if we decide that we don't want to allocate those capacity fees for that, we can then go on the borrowed fund side. This doesn't.
But this is off topic from what this is.
Of how your funds are spent.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a global catch.
Keeping your options open.
Keep there you
I'm going to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2014-08, a resolution declaring the official intent of the Paradise Irrigation District to reimburse itself for certain capital expenditures from the proceeds of indebtedness.
I'll second it.
Second, I thought we had a motion already, but.
No, we didn't have a motion for this.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Corolla?
Yes.
Dr. Hunt?
Yes.
Dr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Dr. Kellogg?
No.
President Becker?
Aye. He wanted an aye last time. I got it. Okay, now is the time for the transmittal of delinquent water charges to Butte County. Manager Barber, please.
Yes, I think last year this was on the consent calendar, but because you adopted a new delinquency policy, that increased the number of customers that were technically delinquent as of June 30th, and those were eligible for being transferred to the tax rolls. You as a board needed to put on your action all of those accounts to make sure we could catch them all. But in fact, we also sent letters out to all those customers. We got a lot of phone calls. That was a miscommunication between myself and the utility billing clerk, but it did concern some customers. So if you were just delinquent, if you missed your June payment and July 1st hit, you were delinquent and you got hit on this list. I think, yes, that's correct, and got a letter. So you as a board have the ability to choose what your guidelines are for moving this to the tax rolls or moving these delinquents accounts. It doesn't have to be all of them. So you can adopt a policy later. You can take action now, whatever your preference is, to establish a cutoff. But that was compounded by the fact that the county used to have a later date that we needed to transmit these to them, and now it's been shoved up to August 15th. And we don't have a board meeting in August prior to that date. So the numbers have to be generated and brought to you. So anybody that's came current on their account between when we developed the list July 1st and when it went out last Thursday have been pulled off.
They've been pulled off?
Yes.
They're on this list, but you're going to pull them off, sir. Is that what you're saying?
If we received the payment, and Georgiana got notified of it before this board packet went out, we pulled them off.
Oh, you pulled them
So
off.
it used to be bigger than that.
Be pulled off until the August
Until August
15th.
15th.
Yeah. So not everything that we're approving not all the numbers.
Does this cost the customer anything by?
Does the county charge them a fee?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. No.
Did they charge the district? Does the county charge the
That was my next question.
So if there's 1 or 100, it's the same fee?
This actually.
We do this every year, right? This is the same thing we send
It
every year?
does it every year, yeah.
But just to let you know too, is like the percentage of the customers that will actually be transmitted to the tax roll are about 1 to 3% of what is captured,
Is what showed here.
is what was delinquent. So
Yeah.
as we send out all these letters, the likelihood of them being actually delinquent to where they're getting on the tax rolls is about 1 to 3%.
So we're not looking at the 28,000 that, 1 to 3% of that.
Okay.
And so, you know, when George was talking about it, if you want my 2 cents, you know, the likelihood, like I said, the likelihood of them getting transmitted is very small. The ones that probably are going to get transmitted are probably already sealed today because they're not getting water. Even so, you know, they're going to.
They really are delinquent and really
They're
are.
very delinquent,
Yeah.
and we're not going to get payment from them, and that's where we really want to use that hammer. So, you know, if the board would like to adopt that anybody that's sealed for non-payment on X date, then those are the ones that we attach to the tax roll. Everybody else has the opportunity to still pay their bill. And if if they're delinquent from August 1st till next August 1st, their account's just gonna build and at that time, then we can attach to the taxes.
And if they are delinquent for 3 months, they're getting penalties assessed throughout that whole time, so we're getting 2% a month.
Okay, so at the end of this resolution, then we're just gonna add on,
I've got something
to only apply?
to suggest, yeah, because I had
Good, okay. So
gone
the
through
wording of
this
that.
earlier. So I will say that I move we adopt resolution of the Board of Directors, resolution number 2014-07, with the following changes made to it. That we amend this resolution to transmit only those delinquent accounts that have also had their PID water service terminated, either voluntarily or by intervention of PID. That way, if we cut them off,
Second.
or if they shut it off and moved out of town,
They have
and they're delinquent, then it gets transmitted, and then we don't bother our clients with these scary
Catch that I
letters.
seconded that.
As of the date of transmittal,
that I seconded.
right?
Okay.
Not as of right now.
Well, how many, I remember seeing it in some of the other material I have, and I did look it up when I was looking at this.
Yes.
How long can they be delinquent before the water shut off? Bottom line.
delinquent almost 25, and then they get, and then they're delinquent again another 20.
80 days or something like that?
65,
48.
about 70 days,
70 days. In other words, if they're delinquent
plus or minus.
70 days plus or minus, we can shut the water off and cap the meter.
And if we take them off this list, we're not losing anything.
Right.
Right. Because if they don't pay, we'll get them next
They'll
year.
soon be on the list.
But any of these that we transfer over
So you got,
becomes a lien on their property, right?
do you have that amendment?
What does the county ever pay us back?
We get paid off.
We get paid right away.
Got it written down here if you want to.
Oh, okay. In other words, the minute it goes on their property as a lien, the county reimburses it for that right then.
It's through the tax.
Well, yeah.
The tax remittance process, but yeah.
Like we have a 1% property tax or thereabouts.
Right, we get a portion of the 1% property taxes, plus they'll pay us the delinquencies.
Yeah, and the people on that 70 days are notified quite clearly that they're going to have their water shut off. I know that they do that.
It's a process, yeah.
Well, I know somebody who got the letter, so that it was issued on July 1st, and they called me freaking out. They're like, I paid my bill on the 4th. I said, well, letter's dated July 1st. That's why.
Somebody pay, they're on the list, transmitted to the county, then they pay PID. What's,
It's too late, we don't accept it.
It's like going to a collection agency or something,
Right, okay.
right? Essentially, like going to a collection.
So there won't
agency.
be anybody
Can't go
that's,
back to the original.
by making this, changing it, there won't be anybody submitted to the county that just was only late one time
Correct.
by one
Correct.
thing.
Right.
Okay. Okay, does everyone understand the motion?
I guess.
The change to the resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Crowley,
Yes.
Director Hunt,
Yes.
Director Fletcher,
Yes.
Director Kellogg,
Yes.
President Duncan.
Aye.
I'm going to change my vote next time.
I love it when you hesitate on a vote.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Let's skip the closed session. All right. Okay, we're going into closed session, a public employee performance evaluation. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak to the fact that we're going to closed session before we go? Seeing none, we'll go to closed session and
Make the same
Might have
comment
one.
that we made last time this issue came up, and that's that the ratepayers think that we already spend a lot of money on the salaries and benefits.
okay. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Ward.
Let's see, where is it?
You realize that,
Sounds to me like a lot of people in Southern California.
This is my job.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
It's a dirty job.
Okay, does any directors wish to make any comments?
Oh, I guess I will. As I understand, under his contract, he's getting SSI, which this year would be 1.5.
No, it's not determined yet.
Just to let you know, I did not get the SSI this year.
This-
It's going to be next year.
Whatever it comes up.
January
Yeah,
15.
January.
Mhm. He didn't, what did you get this year?
Nothing in 14.
Because there's no contract for January 1st.
Oh,
Yeah.
July, okay.
For July 1st, yeah.
So July 1st of 2013, he got a 3%?
That's correct.
Right, okay.
So, in fact, I have that in here, and I'm not going to dig it out. Your current salary is, as of 7/1/13, $110,261.
That's correct.
And when you took this new position, I remember you were very happy with that.
I'm very happy with that.
The position or the money?
With both. With the money, we're talking money now, we're not talking about position.
Oh, okay. He sounded like he was talking position.
So, with a cost of living like the 1.5, which the last one you had was a year ago, basically, in 13, you got a 3%. But with a 1.5, and I'm kind of hanging in there on that, it would be equivalent to $1,653.91 raise per month is what you'd be doing, is what you'd get.
Per year.
Per year.
Per year, yeah. Yeah, 1,600, but that would be, divided 12 would come out, I've got it over here, whatever it is, $107 a month is what you would get in this category. So what we would do is if we do that now, because of the cost of living, that would be from now till January, and then you would get whatever
SSI
design, just like George would do,
as of January 1st.
as of January 1st, yeah.
And so what happened back last January 1st?
Nothing.
No increase.
Why was that?
Because I forego the SSI when I did my contract.
He traded that for the security that we gave him.
So what we would do, if we do this, you would have 6 months at 1.5, yeah, or put set in half cost of living.
What you're proposing is giving a 1.5% rate, salary increase as of now,
Starting January July what?
starting July 1st, then I would have a 1.5 increase. As
Or
of
whatever.
now until December 31st, and then I would then have whatever SSI increase would be on top of that.
That's because that's in your contract.
Correct, because that's.
But he would, by giving him a raise now, you would give him whatever that SSI would increase because of that.
That's what we would be doing.
Yeah.
And I don't really consider, it is a raise because it goes on your contract. And I remember sometime back, that's all happening new, that's the way the unions have got into, it used to be, you'd get your COLA, but it didn't change your salary, and now that does that, and that's one of the things on here. But, so.
Well, if you don't want to change that, then maybe suggest a performance bonus or performance payment.
Myself, I could
How do
vote
they-
for something like that, but
Either one.
as much
That doesn't affect his overall base.
appreciation I have for Kevin, he's doing his job, and even though we just did that with the person, I would vote no against the budget, a bonus
What you would vote for, an increase?
of the COLA, yeah. 1.5.
The increase adds up to more.
Yeah, the increase is.
He's under contract for the COLA, that's set.
Yeah, and he'll
But
get
not
that in
this year, for
January.
next year.
Right, he got.
No,
Yeah.
that's wrong.
No,
That's what he
didn't
just
get-
said.
No, that's not what he said. He is under contract because the contract was signed when? Fall,
Well,
winter?
2013,
Okay. From November on, he's under contract to get a COLA increase that is going to become will first take place on January 1st, 2015. That's contract. So if we award him anything now, it is not a cost of living increase. It is a wage increase. It's a merit increase.
Well, no, he was saying, he was in more.
You can call it anything you
No,
want
no,
to
he
call
was
it.
talking, he said
okay.
he said he'd be in favor
Well, then I put
of
my
an
dis-
increase, but not a
I'm
bonus.
Yeah, I know.
I'm removing
Saying,
my,
yeah.
Right?
I'm removing that thought off the book.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because a performance bonus.
Later, Kevin.
I was wondering where you were coming from.
Sorry.
Next time I call Kevin, next time I call, are you going to have an open door policy like you always have had?
He'll put it on a tip jar.
You were just feeling sorry for him because he didn't get a COLA increase on January 1st, so you wanted to pop a half of it in.
Yeah, it was just, but I've decided that was bad thinking on my part. I'm still trying to figure out how much aluminum is in the Magalia Reservoir. There must be a truckload of it in there, big truck. But anyway, see, that's where I'm hung up at. Georgiana, I'm getting like Mark, or Mark's getting like me, big stories. Anyway, go ahead. I remove all my thoughts off the table on.
Okay, what about you, Bill?
I think he's done an excellent job and everything else, but I also believe there isn't anybody that has the qualifications that Kevin has that's making this kind of money in Paradise. So I'd leave his wage where it is until the contract increase. I think he's doing an outstanding job, and he's getting top wage, and actually the people I know, when I tell them about what his wage is, they just sort of back off. Even doctors and dentists, don't make this kind of money. You're really making an outstanding job, and you're making an outstanding salary, and I think you'd be satisfied just to stay where you are, the way you're acting. So.
Doctors, really?
Really?
One day, one of my clients came in, and she gave me her W-2, and they had given her boss's W-2, and it was the doctor, and it was over $1 million.
In Paradise?
Yes, in Paradise.
Bill, I've done a couple
Yeah,
loans.
I wouldn't compare his salary to what doctors make.
I've done a couple of loans for the medical profession. The doctors are lying.
They're not really hurting.
People that I would have expected, maybe like you're expecting, 100,000, 125,000 or so.
The thing doctors,
I'm telling you,
doctors complain about what plumbers
there's people
get.
who live up here who make a ton of money.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
And it makes them mad. I know my father was a doctor, and it used to make him so mad that a plumber got.
Let's go back to
Right.
let's go back to the one employee we really have to worry about.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're discussing.
Doug, give us a story.
He's already did his story.
He had to back
That's my
up.
story, but I removed it from
Yeah,
the table.
He gave the story and then pulled it back.
But I'd like to tell what about a doctor, and I tried this on him. It was Dr. Jones. When he put my annuity in, I was already on the table. They were putting me out, and the anesthesiologist. I looked at him and I said, "I hope you guys are making lots of money, because I sure as hell don't want you to worry about halfway through the surgery how I'm going to pay the rent." They got a bang out of that. Did an awesome job on my knee too, I might add.
Okay. Seth, you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion to provide a performance bonus or performance payment, a single performance payment of $3,000 for Kevin for the year of 2014.
That's the motion?
That's the motion.
Okay.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, I
Okay.
I don't know if any staff, whatever staff we have left here, or if maybe Kevin can talk to this, but do you have any idea what people in your positions are being paid in Chico and around this area, Kevin?
It varies. It varies from 80,000 to 180,000. I know the guy who I'm friends with at Butte College makes about 150, I think, in my position. There's people at smaller places
What was, you mentioned a job in Chico. Do you know what their range was on that job?
They didn't classify.
Oh, they
what the
didn't.
range was
Oh,
based
okay.
on qualification. So,
Okay.
I can almost guarantee in that place it would have been substantial. So,
Well, it'd be nice to know. Yeah, that's just for information. Anything else, Kevin? Ken? Any other
Not right
discussion? Anyone else want to discuss about the motion before we vote on it?
No, I wish we had the funds to do that, but, I think Kevin knows where I'm coming from, and
Okay.
I work with that one that he's talking about down at Butte.
Okay, we'll have a roll call, please, on the motion. Does anyone in the audience want to speak to it before we vote? Okay. Good.
they make enough money.
I waited around, so I'd like to just tell you a short story. You got Gridley, you got Chico, and you got Anderson. And Anderson pays the most, Gridley pays in the middle, and Chico pays the less. So when labor negotiations come, the people from Chico say, well, I'm doing the same job as the guy at Anderson, and he gets this much money. And the average is the guy in the middle. And so I need to be raised. Well, then the people in charge raise him because, of course, that seems diligent. He's the lowest paid. Now, all of a sudden, he's not the lowest paid, and the guy who is the lowest paid goes to his board and says, I'm the lowest paid, and I need to be at least in the middle. So he gets raised, and what happens in all this? Everybody just keeps getting raised, and it has nothing to do with reality at all. Now, Kevin, I like Kevin, and I think, I'll tell you what, I personally think he does one hell of a job, and I mean one hell of a job. I don't mean just a good job, I mean he does one hell of a job. But I wonder if the board really thinks about what the job is really worth, being how it's a public sector job, basically. He doesn't have to worry. He's got job security like you can't believe. He deserves job security like you can't believe, but that's worth something. And he gets to work in paradise, and that's worth something. So I'd just like you guys to consider that. And I mean that in no way bad for Kevin, because like I say, he does one hell of a job. He's a very smart man. He's right on top of it. I've never seen you ever ask him a question he didn't know the answer to or close to the answer to. So that's not what I'm saying. We're not talking about qualifications. But remember the story about the 3 cities, and the bottom guy needs to be up in the middle. And think about where that all goes if we all apply that theory to everybody. Thank you.
I don't know, I don't feel that Kevin really has that much security, because all he needs is for 3 people to get in that don't want him, and he's in trouble. I think that's why I never worked for the government, because I didn't want voters to decide whether I'm going to keep my job or not. That was one reason I stayed out of government, because I had a chance to go into it as an accountant. That was the reason we voted that he gets a 12-month severance, because this does give him a little bit of security. But as far as security, every time we have an election that has 3 of us up for election, like in November, his job is at risk, just like everybody's is in a public thing. And so I don't think he's got that much security. He's not like, I guess they just got rid of tenure on teachers, so I think they don't even have the security they used to have. But I don't think that he has that much security, other than the fact that he's doing a good job. That's his security.
Sure, I'd like to ask what a person in the private sector, if he was doing the job for a private corporation, what security would he have there? He wouldn't even have 12-month severance there. And I think he deserves a 12-month severance, and God bless him for doing that. But I'm saying,
not a discussion.
As any job goes.
But he can't discuss it with us.
Right, yeah. I can't discuss it with you. I just made a comment that I don't think he's that secure. I want, for the other, it was for the boards.
Let's vote.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak before we vote? Seeing none? Okay, roll call, please.
Director Corolla?
Yes.
Vice President Head?
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
No, I wish I didn't have to vote that way, but I
Director
do.
Kellogg?
No, again.
President Duncan?
No. The only reason I voted no was because, unlike George, his job has saved us money, but we don't know how much. We gave George a $5,000 bonus because one thing he did last year, by hiring our investor, he saved us $6,000 because the guy was honest enough to reduce his rates. And who knows how much money he saved utilities. I mean, we know thousands of dollars. If we were in a better position, I would have voted yes on the 3,000.
What kind of a better position did you mean?
If we were in a better economic position. The board, if the district was. The thing that people, maybe I'm a pessimist, but what happens if we run out of water?
We serve mud.
We don't have anything to sell.
Well, as we'll visit here just a little later in the agenda, we're going to be, according to Kevin, $200,000 down in our income because of the loss of water sales.
Right.
You know, like myself, just using me as one meter thing, like last year, because I love to irrigate, I've been doing it since the 1950s, my water bill was $150 a month and higher, you know, because I did a lot of irrigating. Well, I don't know what's going to be this year because it's got to be way down because I just not irrigating. And part of it's the drought, and part of it's I'm getting too old. But anyway.
Why don't we wait till we get to that
Okay.
portion and then we
That's
can.
what I agree.
Okay, is there any other one wish to make a motion? Nobody wants to make a motion?
No, I don't. I already
Well,
said that.
don't we have to make a motion?
For what?
No, you never have to make a motion.
You don't have to
Action
make
may
a
be
motion.
taken.
It's not.
May be taken. I would think that would, if I was Kevin, I'd want a motion.
In what regard?
No raise or whatever. We did it with George.
You don't need a motion.
We don't?
The effective taking no action as he just continues with his current contract.
Right.
With the serve contractor.
Okay, does anyone else want to make another motion then? Okay, I move that we give Kevin a bonus of $1,000. And that way we'll pay for it from the $6,000 that George saved us. Because he saved us $6 and we only gave him $5. So I think we ought to give the rest to Kevin since he's a good reporter. So that's my motion. To give him a $1,000 bonus.
I'll second your motion, Larry.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, a roll call, please.
Director Corolla?
Yes.
Vice President Head?
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
Oh,
Director Kellogg?
No.
I'll vote yes.
President Duncan?
Passes 3-2. And then we know where the money came from. Okay. Next item on the agenda is committee reports. And I'm the only one, huh?
yes.
Okay. It was LAFCO.
Excuse me.
Let's see, we met on the 3rd of July, day before 4th of July. And it was a short meeting. We're still dealing with the extension of services with Chico. And we did, other than that, we didn't do much thing where the Chico is going to come up with the solution to the problem that they're having on August the 5th, hopefully in our favor. If not, then we may have to litigate. but we're hoping that we've come to an agreement that we can both live with. They still have over 60 illegal extensions of service, which is against state law, and so we're trying to get that corrected. So that was it. Then also on July the 11th, I had a phone-in meeting on CalAFCO, and they had a big discussion about regulating groundwater. The state is trying to come up with a way to, it doesn't affect us, I don't think, but they are trying to come up with a way of regulating people who use groundwater. The state is, and they've got several bills before the state to try to do something about it, but they don't even know where they are. And then we're having our convention in Ontario in October, our annual convention, and the PID doesn't pay for any of that. LAFCO pays for it all, so it doesn't cost PID at all. And it's they got it at $99 a night at the hotel in Ontario. Now, and they're looking at going to Santa Barbara next year. The best price they can get there is $199 a night. So Ontario is
Ontario,
actually
Santa
let's
Barbara.
be looking.
No, really.
Now they claim that right. But anyway, they're saying that Ontario is up and growing, and I guess they even have wineries there now. And we're going to have a winery tour and all that stuff. So they claim, the Ontario people claim we're going to have a good time, but it'll do it. And we did change a bunch of policies that are insignificant. We have our new CEO. This was her first year. We make most of our money on our conventions, and the convention came into the black, $14,000, which we feel happy if we break even. So there won't be any need to increase. I think we have a standard, like Ken wants, we have a standard increase in dues every year, but we have voted it down several times, but it's a very small thing. I think last time our dues to LAFCO went up $15 because of CalAFCO's increase to them. And the year before, ours went down because it's based on revenue. So if our revenue is going down, our fees will probably go down with CalAFCO, with LAFCO. And that's my reports. Anyone else want to report anything they did during the month that we don't know about? You know, we're supposed to report
It was last month I'd report a hole in one, but
a hole in one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
I know, really. Did it just get on the record? That's exactly it. Did that just get on the record?
How much money are you going to contribute to PID because of it?
Shouldn't you buy us all drinks if you want that on the
Yeah.
record?
water.
It's like having a
Water. Yeah, you can have some water. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is the General Manager's report.
Okay, you have my written report. I have some things to add. I gave a talk today about PID and drought situation to the SIRS across the street. That Sons in Retirement Service, about 85 gentlemen. It was a bigger crowd than I expected. It went very well. After the meeting, one gentleman came up and told me about his landscaper who was apparently at our talk for landscapers, and he suggested that the man punch his lawn and put these pellets in that will cut his water usage by 40%, which was one of the things these guys learned at our session. So it appears to be working. Cool.
Good. That's great.
I'm in discussions with Chevron as to, since the bankruptcy is kind of winding its way down, I reached out to Chevron to ask them what they're going to do about it, how they're going to help us, because we have, I should have brought the number, about 300 Fireflies that should have been warrantied and weren't. and I'm basically trying to see if they're going to help us out there or not, whether it's contractual or PR related. On the PR side, you will see some action. It's in legal's court right now. Chevron Energy Solutions is being sold off to another company. So the legal side, we'll let Justin explain it next meeting. But I don't know how much we can continue to pull the PR side. If it gets sold off, we'll have to evaluate that. Earlier in today's meeting, we were talking about the name of the project for the $15 million, because there may be some other things that we need to accomplish in the same process or borrowing. I'm working with treatment plant staff. We've had a meeting and we're going over some issues at the plant to figure out, make sure that we're looking ahead to what this project's going to impact, and are there other things that we should be accomplishing under the same contract that will likely be cheaper, because we'll be doing them while they're, rather than waiting until we have all this other facilities up there. So I'm detailing that out. I plan to have a board session with that, probably one of the special meetings we have. I'll couple it up with when we bring you in for contract negotiations. I'll have an open session item to go over those issues and explain them to you and kind of give you a heads up on that. Because we've identified some things that should be done, and some things that could be very beneficial to take care of during this process.
George, may I ask?
Yes.
Will that be, of course, it'll be a meeting, and what, but it would be kind of like a seminar, just where we could really dialogue with various people, including ourselves.
Yeah, staff will be here, and it'll be open session, so we'll have a map up there. I'm going to identify all these potential additions or things we think need to be accomplished. So you're aware of them, and at some point you'll get to decide whether we do it.
You know, and of course we would have an agenda to keep legal and all that, but it would be like a real workshop type of a environment.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, good.
Director Kellogg sent me a article on a project that did a apparently successful mitigation of seismic issues on a dam using a method called cement deep soil mixing, which is an alternative that looks like it's came out since the last time we talked to DSOD. It has some, it could be a potential solution. Don't know. It would take a firm with that expertise to really let us know. I thought I'd share that with you guys. I can send you the link if you're interested. But they basically mix cement with drill rigs down into the clay to mitigate the shaking action of a seismic event.
Excuse me.
So it has potential.
Well, thank you. It came about, they called me about running a no-till drill and possibly buying some native grasses. It's all the way down in there, San Diego, I think, county. But the interesting thing that I sent to George was it's a 1914 or 15 dam.
That's right around the same era.
Same era, and it's a dirt dam, but it's a what is it, $30 million or $40 million project?
I looked at the engineering site, and I think it was, $40 million.
40 million.
And this solution knocked it down from 60.
So it's a much bigger dam and reservoir than we have here.
Yeah, that leads me to my next topic. We always have the issue, if we rehab Magalia, of the roadway. And whether it can work in conjunction with that or not, don't know. Because you have to do some excavation, and whether you can temporarily move traffic, which is a possibility. But I had a meeting with Butte County Public Works Director, and we touch bases periodically, because they got a desire to get 4 lanes, and we have a desire for a new dam or a fixed dam or whatever ultimately we end up with. And I provided him some work that Neil did for me that shows different alternatives for new dams that store from 6,000 acre feet, which would fully develop our water rights, all the way up to, I believe, 10,000 acre feet of storage. The thought being that this is a project we're going to need assistance, either federally or from the state. And so when you're seeking grant funding or appropriations, whatever the case may be, the more benefits that you can realize from that project, the more chance you have of success. So we've got the 4-lane escape route issue, we've got our water supply issue, but we could potentially build it bigger than our water rights and store environmental water. So that environmental water could be released at the appropriate times to benefit salmon and steelhead. And got that idea when I toured the Sites Reservoir project. That's part of their whole philosophy is building storage, and part of it's for environmental releases. So he's going to look at our drawings and set up a meeting with myself and him, and the county has a lobbying group that they hire, and we're going to sit down and discuss with them kind of how far do we got to take this before to make it kind of sellable. You know, do we need to hire an engineering firm to do a feasibility project? Do we need to just try and get some, what Mike Crump called it, grant crumbs? Some crumbs enough to have someone pay for our feasibility study. So we're going to get some guidance there. It was a productive meeting.
One thing, Doug is a personal friend of our representative in Congress, Memo, and it might be worthwhile talking to him. There's always elections are coming around, but he's a local man and understands local issues, and he might look on favor of putting a bill into Congress that would help us from federal monies, pork barrel, whatever you want to call it, to talking to him, and Doug would be your intro.
Yep, I've had discussions with their office, and that's kind of part of the strategy of going to this group first. The better package we have, even for our local guy to be able to sell, the better position we'll be in.
I'm sure that he would do that. I had him as a student back when he was 19, 20 years old. We kept up that relationship ever since, and that worked out nice.
You mentioned the Fireflies and Chevron.
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever find out how much money Chevron lost on that deal with us?
No, we never will.
We never will, huh? It was big bucks, though, wasn't it?
I would guess so.
Yeah, and the thing I want to stress is that if we hadn't gone to automated meters, all these things that we're doing to save the water, so we're not out of water, is because of the automated meters. We couldn't do the online stuff. We couldn't do the one day.
We also probably have another 1,500 acres in our reservoir because
of it.
Our customers fixing
Right,
their-
and we're saving money. Our customers, we've saved them so much money because of we catch their leaks so early. Yeah. So to me, I'm so proud that we did that. I just want to tell everyone about it.
The last one I have, Bill, you might not like this one, but I just need to let all of the directors know. Bill visited the treatment plant Saturday, and the operator buzzed him in and answered his questions, whatever the case may be. But I've directed the operations staff to not allow access to directors on Saturdays. We need to limit that to normal business hours. You all have access to Jim Passanisi. He can take you around. He can answer your questions. But we have a person there on Saturday that has a job to do, and I don't want any director, I don't want them to feel like they have to make a decision whether to let you in or not. They're being directed not to. I would hate for some process in our treatment to go afoul while an operator's out talking to a director and he missed something and we end up having problems with our water quality. So this is my chance to let all of you know that's the direction that I've given to our staff.
It's a
I
limited,
talked to the man for about 5 minutes. He never left the treatment office where he was running his machine. I asked him one question, made one comment, and left, understanding that there was one man by himself running the water treatment plant, and I was not, that was it. And there was no interruption in his work, I don't think.
And I'm not saying there was, but it highlighted a potential issue that I needed to address. So that's all.
I remember when I went there on a tour, and I asked Bill, I said, what's that button for? And he says, if there's an emergency, we push the button. And I said, really, what's it sound like? And he pushed the button, and he couldn't turn it off. And I felt so embarrassed that I caused that trouble. But it was on a tour, so I was okay. But I know what you're saying is when there's one person there, yeah, it's a good idea to not allow any visitors.
It's difficult for them to whatever they were doing. It's difficult.
Yeah,
to say no unless they've got the backing from me.
Yeah, well, it's people don't realize that's why we have these harassment laws, because people are affected. I mean, I don't think I have any respect or authority among the people, but I'm sure they think I do. And
Well, George, you said Saturday, but do you mean any non-working weekday? On like holiday or Sunday or Saturday?
The board needs to restrict it to normal business hours, where you can get a hold of Jim Passanisi or.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but you just said Saturday, so I just wanted
No,
to.
it occurred on Saturday.
Okay.
That's what brought it to light.
Anytime that we want to talk to Jim, because I talked to him quite frequently, not so much recently, because of the Conservation Committee and learning during the normal business hours, you have no problem with that.
Correct.
Because he is, he and I have a rapport where if he's busy, he'll tell me and I'll call him. He'll call me and I'm busy and I'll say, but that's legitimate.
Educating directors is part of his job.
Yeah.
if you called me during tax season, I wouldn't let you in.
I wouldn't call you during tax season.
Okay.
Are you going to talk about what's up on the screen here? The
State board,
yeah.
I'm going to let Dustin
You're going to save that for his? Okay.
carry that in the legal report.
Okay.
Took my pills an hour late.
We don't want to do that.
Want to do that now?
Go, baby.
You ready?
Yeah, you're up.
Okay. There's actually 2 actions the state board has taken recently that I want to update you on. The first is the curtailment. And let me give you a little bit of background to refresh your memory. I'll try to be brief. In May, the State Water Board curtailed all post-1914 water rights. The district holds 2 post-1914 water rights in addition to 1 pre-1914 water right. So the effect of that curtailment prevented us from continuing to store water, divert to storage. We kept the water that we had already stored prior to the effective date of the curtailment. So in that respect, there wasn't much inflow anyway, so it wasn't that big of an impact. You fast forward to June, and the State Water Board proposed a series of emergency regulations. They were, in draft form, they were very broadly worded. They would have allowed the curtailment of pre-14, post-14s and other watersheds, and riparian water rights. And I, along with, PID, in addition to a number of my other clients, I prepared a letter on your behalf. There was a number of objections to the proposed emergency regulations. The letter's public, by the way. If the board would like to see it, I could provide a copy, or if anybody else in the audience would like to see it, I could provide a copy. But some of the things I suggested to the state board was you ought not to be curtailing pre-1914 rights and riparian rights. There's a number of problems doing that. You ought to just focus on curtailing post-1914 rights. You've already curtailed them. Now you ought to make sure that the curtailments are being respected. And fast forward to July 1st, the state board actually agreed with that, and they adopted that. They narrowed the scope of their proposed regulations to only post 14, which was good. I considered that a success. Another comment I had, and this was specific to 3 of my clients, PID and South Feather Water and Power Agency and Nevada Irrigation District. You're all foothill water districts. You own reservoirs. You don't have a groundwater supply. You're in fractured rock aquifers, and they're somewhat flashy systems. So, in the specific concern I had was how long are the effective date? How long is the curtailment going to last? Is it going to spill into the fall months when hopefully we're going to start receiving storms? And the effect of carrying the curtailment into those fall months is you have to pass through. You can't divert to storage, so you're passing through any storm inflow that your reservoir may get. I actually attended the meeting on July 1st. My business partner, Paul Manassian, was there. We kind of tag-teamed these issues. I spoke specifically on this issue, testified before the state board, and it was received really well. I mentioned the problems. We submitted some estimates of if the curtailment lasted into October, November, December timeframe, how that in various year types would equate to loss of storage. So I presented all that to the state board. The board members were actually nodding their heads. They were very receptive. They realized the problem. There was a suggestion that they ought to just end the curtailment on September 30th. That's the end of the water year. And they actually discussed that. So that was kind of during the public comment portion, public testimony portion of the meeting. And they brought it up again. The board members brought it up again later during their kind of board comments. But unfortunately, that clarification that I wanted didn't carry over into the final emergency regulations. So I think we still need to do a little work at the staff level and at the board level. We need to clarify this issue. If you are not allowed to store water in October, November, December, and we have a dry February, March, April, January, then that could have significant impacts on the district's water supply in 2015. So it's a big issue. And I think it's something the State Water Board ought to be receptive to. It's a unique, I think it's important to all curtailed water right holders, but it's especially significant to the foothill districts because you can't bring water uphill. So,
and if you go back, very recent event, fall of 2012, we got rainstorms.
Was our
we filled our
savers
reservoirs by January 1st, and then the spigot shut off. That's what we're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be continuing to press that specific issue. Aside from that one issue, the state board action was actually very positive. They narrowed the scope of the regulations to post-1914 water rights. That means if we get a summer rainstorm or a freshet is what it's called, a September rainstorm, we still have our pre-1914 water right that we can rely on, and we can capture that and store it. The problem is once we start getting the bigger storms, hopefully, it will exceed the diversion right of that water right, and so we'll have to pass through a lot of inflow. So that's that issue. The second issue, also State Water Resources Control Board. They recently proposed mandatory conservation measures, and I'm sure you've read about this in the newspaper. It's been picked up by national news.
They got your paper as well.
Okay, good. It's a bit of a publicity stunt more than anything, but it does affect the district. The state board, it was a similar process. The regulations came out in draft form. The state board asked for comments. They held a public hearing. That public hearing was yesterday. the State Water Board ultimately approved the regulations. There was a number of amendments that weren't publicized at the meeting. So, and it wasn't until about 6 o'clock or so that they actually published the amendments. So I haven't had a chance to really look through them. But some of the things it requires is, you can't wash down any hardscape, a sidewalk or something. You have to use a hose with a nozzle on it. It's stuff that we already have in our conservation program. I think the thing that has grabbed everybody's attention is that if somebody does one of these things, they hose down a sidewalk, for example, then the regulations that were approved by the state board carry a $500 penalty per day. So if you wash down your sidewalk Monday and Tuesday, then theoretically there's 2 separate violations. The thing that is unclear in the regulations, and I probably need to do some research to answer this, is who's going to enforce this? My guess is the local agencies, PID in this instance, we're going to have a lot of discretion. And probably what we'll end up doing, I'll talk with staff on this, but we would reserve imposing penalties for the worst offenders, the people that we just keep telling them, and they keep doing the inefficient water practice, whatever it may be. And I think we could probably adopt some kind of a progressive penalty approach, where maybe you first is a written or verbal warning, then a written warning, then $100, then and you just tier up to the $500.
Well, we kind of already have it.
You do.
Yeah.
In our case, it goes verbal, written. It's not quite as specific, but it gets to a point where it's 2 times the highest consumption tier. All of their consumption can be below that. That's a pretty good chunk.
This will be tough on staff, but there's now a monthly reporting requirement. By the way, this regulation is probably a state mandate. At least in my view, there's a pretty credible claim. This is a state mandate. Ties in very nicely with our existing test claim because it's directed to urban water suppliers. So
nice.
I think so. Moving forward, this was approved by the State Water Resource Control Board. The process dictates that it goes to another state agency called the Office of Administrative Law. Because it's an emergency regulation, there's an abbreviated review time. It's 10 days. So 10 days from today is, help me out, what's today? 16th, 26th. So the earliest these regulations can have the effect of a law is the 26th. And within the 10-day period, we can lodge, we have 5 days to lodge a comment letter and an opposition letter. And I'll review the actual proposed amended regulations tomorrow, and I'll talk with staff about whether that's something we need to do or not. My guess is we won't. There is, again, depending on the amendments that were made, we may need to either hold a special meeting or have an agenda item at the regular August meeting to consider amending our water conservation program, either probably to comply with the elements that are now going to be regulations. So, any questions?
I got the idea that they're going to make us do it, enforce it, and that if we don't enforce it and they can prove it, then they're going to fine us.
That's not my understanding.
Oh.
If you decided not to issue any $500 fines, I think we're going to have that discretion.
Oh.
Where we don't have discretion is we are going to be required to do the monthly reporting.
Monthly report.
And then we're going to be required to have some kind of mandatory outdoor watering limitations, which we already do. The question is our current odd even watering prohibition or limitation, is that adequate? Because the draft regulations mention going to 2 day a week limit. So,
And I think our results should prove out that it is adequate, because we
Yeah.
the governor's 20%.
Well, the secretary of the board said that a brown lawn is a badge of
yeah.
something.
That was one of the objectionable pieces to what they proposed. It's really a one-size-fits-all. I mean, here we are. We're one of the few in the state that are meeting the governor's conservation goal and exceeding it, and yet we're subject to the same regulation that Southern California, that is on the complete opposite side of that conservation goal.
Right.
And there's other people in the state. I have a client, Humboldt Bay. They've got a full reservoir. They were one of the few in the state to receive above average rainfall. And their water is either stays in the reservoir, full reservoir, or it spills into the ocean. I mean, so conservation doesn't really make sense for them. It's kind of the concern. Their concern was, if we're going to tell our customers to conserve, it's a bit like the little boy crying wolf.
Yeah.
When we really need to conserve, people aren't going to take it as seriously. So anyway, the State Water Resource Control Board is really excited about their spotlight that's on them right now, and they're taking full advantage of it.
I can't remember. I read the letter about the offenses and the potential fine of $500 per occurrence, but did it have something that measured the overall water usage of an individual's yard compared to last year, this year compared to last year?
I don't think that's a requirement.
No, it doesn't get down to that specific.
Okay.
It's as a district.
So it's going to be, you don't waste the water, you don't put it on the sidewalks, but if you have a lawn, you can water your lawn within the rules that we have established.
Or maybe the 2 day a
We
week.
need to amend it to the 2 day. That's subject to, I got to look at that.
We hope not.
Excuse me?
We hope not.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in our
customers have responded well. If you drive around town, you don't see green lawns, you see brownish lawns, so they're alive, they didn't die, and we're meeting our goals. So it would be a shame if we had to do that.
I know a customer that, in fact, they're in Bill's division, that is, bought a new house last year, and then they've been slowly making their improvements and putting in hardscape, and then they put in a pool, which they just filled, and now they're working on the green stuff, putting in landscaping, and part of that is going to be the ever thirsty lawn, green lawn, and they ask me, they say, "Are we going to get in trouble for this? What are your rules going on here? Because I mean, we're just bringing our house up to where it should be. Last year it was a dirt pile." And I was just wondering, I said, I think if you can pay the bill, you can use the water.
That's probably not true. It can be true on most of their landscaping, but if they were to put in a lawn, they couldn't water it enough to keep it alive with our current restrictions.
Every other day is not enough to keep a lawn alive?
Not in a new lawn.
Not while it's getting established. They only get 2 weeks exemption, but that's
Not long enough.
In this heat, 2 weeks isn't.
I would
that's
encourage
set up for a fall.
encourage them to hold off.
Yeah.
That would be best.
So where maybe natural rain will be there.
Fall. Yeah.
Fall.
In fact, I was just talking.
That's what I did mine.
I was just talking with an individual couple. I used to be knee deep in the football program over here for the last 30-some years, and they just went in and reworked the football field and sodded it. They were asking, "What are we going to do for irrigation?" I guess, have anybody over there talked to you? I said, I didn't know, because there's just rules coming out all the time. But
They asked our opinion in January, around January, and I gave them a letter that strongly suggested that they do not do that project this year.
But, yeah, well, they went ahead and did it. In fact, they threw us, the American Cancer Society, off of the thing 3 days before we were having our event. It's a long story. But then the other thing, getting back, when we put our conservation plan together, I think, George, it was you and your staff, like for a painter, and one of them talking to me, and they felt good because it's in there that they can prepare for painting, power wash and all that stuff. And then also, and I've done this on mine just a couple of times before, I haven't done it recently, with a power washer your patio. That's the only way to do it anyway, which I never used to, but I did on this. Are they going to not have you do that? It's all sidewalk. You're not going to do that with a power washer.
Well, under our rules, they shouldn't do that with a power washer.
We could do it under our rules. You could do it with a power washer.
No, you can't.
I think that was washing the house for painting or something.
You could only if you're prepping that concrete to put a sealer on it or something. But just to wash it, no.
Okay.
And if we have to adopt the state's version, then none of it.
No,
it'll be a heck no.
Our hard, flat surface.
Not gonna happen.
Is for human
Health and safety.
Okay, you through? Okay, let's go to staff reports and billing reports. Anyone have any questions on them?
Staff reports,
Yeah.
page 135.
Lake sales look good.
129.
Huh?
Oh, wait, in this one, it's 129.
Well, I just got ahead of it.
But I cut it instead of the pass.
Meter shop replaced 28 fireflies, faulty batteries. Where'd we get those? Did we have them in stock, or?
Yeah, if you remember, Kevin reached out and bought 300.
How are we doing on the stock of them?
We stocked 225 as of inventory.
You just bought some more. There's some in the check register, isn't there?
Is there fireflies in there?
Yeah.
It's a Firefly C or something in the check register.
Check
11.
register. Yeah. There were some in the register I saw, yeah.
Registers?
In the check register.
The check register, you bought some, yeah. 30, I think it was like only 33 or something like that.
Yeah, I have.
Readers, okay. Any other questions?
I just.
Let Bill do it first.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was just looking for, a crew has completed pipe installation of pipe and services in the backyards at the north end of Jensen Circle and the south end of Feather River Place. Is this new pipe, or somewhere in here they said that the crew is going to move over to pipe installation after he got through asphalt repairs?
Correct.
Have they started replacing pipe yet?
No, they're on the Jensen Court project. That's a PFD project. We put the main line in a while ago and capped it, and now they got to go back and do the connections and the services. That's probably what that's referencing.
What's BFD mean?
Fire department.
Oh,
Fund.
BFD?
PFD.
Oh, PFD, okay.
I know what BFD is.
So what? What does BFD? I don't know. BFD?
That's all my comments.
I guess I'm naive.
I'll write it down for you.
Any other, okay, that's his. How about you?
I was just going to ask for my knowledge. Under the summary, it says 2 temporary labor positions were filled in May and 3 others by mid-July. How many, I would call those seasonal. Is that what you call them, or temporary or seasonal? Well, in ag, we call them seasonal, but how many of those positions do we have? 5. That's all?
Never use that word.
Okay, good. And of course, they would be laid off before, yeah, okay, perfect.
Is that it? Okay, Ken, any questions on staff reports or billing reports?
No, I looked through.
Step?
I'm good.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
I move we accept the staff reports as presented.
Second.
Moved and cited. Any further discussion? Anybody out there? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Did that include the treatment staff report
Yep,
on 135?
yep.
Okay.
Because I was.
Did you vote aye?
Some things there.
Did you vote aye?
I voted yes.
Okay,
but
so
I didn't
fine.
realize I was covering.
Okay,
other-
you can have I'll let you have a question on it. Go ahead.
My question. Engineering analysis on the process water project thing. Estimated construction operational life cycle costs of 2 alternatives underway. Draft report last week in June provided Lee and Rose spreadsheets, CAD drawings, and information, and so forth. They were evaluating further the centrifuge and screw filter. The fellow that manages the sewage district in Chico, when I talked to him, he was going to try to make the meeting tonight. He was so curious, he said, about what we were doing up here. And he talked to me at length about the centrifuge and that, and any rate, and our staff went down and visited with him, and he was very happy to share information with them and thought it was just great that they came by and investigate the centrifuge on it. And then, of course, it says right here the permit extension letter was sent out. I think Jim is doing a good job running the water treatment plant and doing the thing. He's very much what do you call him? A nitpicker, I guess is what I'd say, because I'm definitely not that, although you'd like to think otherwise. But at any rate, he's got everything that's going on in here in great detail, and I think that's interesting if we pay attention to it and see what's going on. And then even about Del Oro's pumping in the pump station number 2, project update, 42-inch pipeline. What's going to happen with that? I was told that maybe this summer or next summer we would actually repair the underneath the.
We have an alternative, and that'll be covered in the, when I give that presentation on things that need to be taken care of at the treatment plant with the process water project. So we're looking at, I mean, it's, you can replace it, you can, the original thought was to fix the pier blocks and stabilize them, but when we analyzed that, together with the pipe is old and it needs to be replaced, we're looking at an alternative of putting a new pipeline in on the other side of the creek off of the raw water bypass, and then it would be buried in the ground and you would no longer have that crossing there.
So you dig
That's
it,
the other alternative.
you put it in the bay at the bottom of Little Butte Creek, would that?
No, we would put, you know how the blue pipe goes down the road and there's a bridge that crosses Little Butte Creek?
Yeah.
Well, we would come up above that bridge and we'd connect to that pipe there and then bring it to the treatment plant instead of going down and then crossing the creek. Because it actually, the raw water crosses the creek twice.
Okay.
So it's an alternative at this point that we've looked at, and we'll be able to highlight it better when the photo's up and explain it better.
Thank you.
Okay, treasurer's report.
I got.
Oh, no, we closed it. We voted on it and everything. It's over. I only let Bill do it because he's been nice to me tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta be nicer.
You gotta be nicer to me. Yeah. Okay, we're on to treasurer's report. You can do it in a discussion of the directors.
You have my written memo. The report wasn't available to get most of the stuff because it's kind of a quick board meeting front end of month. Our cash is currently at 4.3 mil, 2.18 or 2.15 of that is restricted, 2.19 is unrestricted. That's actually a little bit down from what we kind of past couple months due to the fact that we did make that large payment on the 2011 bond, and we're still going to make another additional payment on the Department of Water Resources when we haven't made that payment. Again, last year. So again, I'm taking those numbers and kind of flowing those out to our new budget and flowing them out from extending not only this year but next year and next year to see what kind of damage that does to us. And it's significant. I mean, we're going to have to take a look at that and make sure that that if we do have a drop in consumption, that we can still stay afloat from a revenue standpoint. So that'll go into our rate increase analysis about what we can absorb in a decrease in consumption versus what we can't absorb. But Corporation Yard is complete from fiscal years. The water rights application is still in process. The process water recycle, we've seen that today. We're state revolving fund. We're still waiting for the application to come back from the bond council to get their stamp of approval. Once that comes back, then for the $500,000 portion of that bond, then we'll have our outside expert, which is Brandy's Salmon. Brandy's will do a debt service calculation for us to show that we can absorb that $500,000 in the debt service payments, and then we will be able to submit the application to the state revolving fund. And that state revolving fund, the payment is not due until the project is complete. So remember, we're getting $500,000 for design. The payment would not be due on that until the design is complete. And if we were to roll that design directly into a construction, we possibly could have no payment until the construction is complete. So there could be a portion right there, if we meet a window that would take too long to go from design to construction, that we would have to pay a portion of that back. So there could be a payment portion in there. But that's how that works. Aquahawk, we've had nothing but positive feedback from Aquahawk. We're continuing to get people signed up, and more people are using it. And then the 2014-15 budget is being prepared, is almost complete. And if the finance committee wants a first look at it, then we'll call a finance committee meeting together. Once we get it tidied up, and we'll get their blessing on it, and then we'll schedule either a special board meeting or present it at the August meeting.
Will that have all the narrative also?
That's correct. That's what we're finishing up the narrative as we proceed.
And when I talked to you, I was on my porch.
Any questions of the treasurer?
I just have one down here on your long-term goals. These are the ones that you're going to be meeting with us in a workshop atmosphere.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, good. Yeah, those are all very key things.
All of them are very long-term projection, board driven policies and goals. So, yes, so the board will be instrumental in all of these.
Good. When are you planning on having that workshop?
It's probably not going to be after, I would say, well, I don't know, it's tough because we're going to look at
September
rates,
or something?
look at things. So there's going to be multiple workshops, I would say, probably from the beginning of by next month, probably all the way through.
Good.
November.
Yeah, the fall, so.
Yeah.
Great.
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Anyone out there wish to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
I see, I give him my thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay, approval of the June checks.
I don't think
Do
I
we
even
have
have it.
a report on the attorney's fees?
I forgot to print that out. Who would like a copy of it?
I don't.
You got the checks.
I have quite a bit of expenditures.
We got the answer right, though, about why we have two payments?
I bet you we have, yeah.
We just missed the payment.
Ah. You send Guido in to collect or something?
Well, you're on my resolution to put you on the tax roll.
That's all. You do that too? You can't do that.
Got nothing in
You're
checks.
you're not government. Okay, well, do you want to start? Bill? Questions?
Well, the first one I'm going to have is about the attorney's bills.
Okay, well,
So we'll have to-
and that's, do you have any others?
Yeah, I have some.
Do the others, and then then when he brings that out, you can do that one.
I remember back, we had some where the board voted a lump sum to, I can't even think the lumberyard, Payless Lumberyard to buy materials. And I see this Meeks Lumberyard for 17,000 so much. It may have even been an expense that took place earlier, I don't know. I was just curious because I thought we voted money for one and here the other lumberyard shows up, but it's, anyway, because there's some older ones in here I noticed, or maybe, yeah, unusual items that's under the total, so I don't know when it took place.
I think Jim told us at one point that there was some items he just couldn't buy at Payless because they don't carry the things that Meek carries.
Everything goes out to bid. They got an opportunity to bid, so
Yeah.
the 17,000 to Meeks might have been doors. It's been a while since we put those in, so I'm not sure why it would be that late.
Well,
but
where is it? I can't see. I'm
Meeks?
looking at Meeks, but I don't
Meeks
see
is only
17,000.
Yeah, it's on,
153 page number, iPad page 153.
Oh, 53?
It's one of the unusual, it's in yellow. The second one down, where there's, and the second one over, lists five different unusual.
Oh, that's not a
what number did he say?
a single check here. I don't know what that is.
iPad page 153?
Yeah, that's on the graph. That's for October.
Pardon?
That's for October last year.
Oh, okay.
I guess. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know
in
what it is.
October last year. I was like,
I'm not sure, Bill.
where's
that's
153?
October last year.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Oh, yeah, that's an old one.
Now I'm less
That was an,
confused.
Yeah, I was like, I never saw that. That would have stuck out.
Meeks was only
Yeah, I finally
$700.
caught over to Meeks.
Meeks was only $700.
Yeah.
This is 17,000.
Yeah, you're looking at
On
the,
page 156, there's vendor AT&T Mobility. That's what you were asking earlier, Larry, about Fireflies.
yeah,
They Firefly CS, and there's evidently 11 of them.
11 of them, okay, yeah.
Oh, that's our monthly service for the
Gateways?
the gateways that report via cell phone.
Oh,
That's for AT&T.
oh, okay. I just saw Fireflies, yeah,
Yeah, I did too.
okay.
And then,
That's
We seen that
Firefly
before?
Cell Service is what that stands for.
Have we seen that charge before?
we have two auto parts, people, ribs, I guess
What?
we call it that, ribs, or,
What page? 161.
161,
Yeah,
and then the other one's on 162.
who is it?
The first one is
O'Reilly?
O'Reilly Auto Parts,
Yeah,
and the second one is Rides Auto Parts. They're at the bottom of the page and goes over.
You have O'Reilly's and Brady's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do we have any special deals with them for the amount of $1,000 or more a month, it looks like, with each one?
20% off, probably, something like that is usually, yeah, it's,
Is there an annual vendor?
yeah.
So we do get
And-
discounts from them?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. And I know we get discounts from Ace Hardware, so there's $2,500 for that. Under vendor U.S. Bank, they have, that's on page 166. The last check entered in June the 25th. It says two Acer C710-2856 Chromebook. Is that an actual computer or what?
Yes.
We bought two Chromebooks for the outside of the office, or not the outside of the office, in the customer service area, and we're going to mount two screens to allow access to Aquahawk to any.
Just for the kiosks.
Yeah, it's basically a kiosk. So any customer that comes in that doesn't have internet access, that wants to see their stuff, they're able to log in. We're also going to use it for kind of a running board for display of conservation efforts or
Run our videos through it.
and if
Running
people would like to
videos,
watch
yeah.
videos, then they'll have availability to the videos right there in the front.
And no, we won't have popcorn.
Thank you. And then there's
chairs.
conference meetings under the same heading.
Can we see the website too?
Yeah.
Paradise Days Water website, we don't know that one too.
So we're gonna have the website available to them, and also with our new accounting software, people can actually do applications now online, and it goes right into the accounting software. And then instead of having to go and re-enter all their info, you just say basically how to get a hire, and it drops all their information right into the system. So,
Cool.
so we'll have that available too.
He had questions on the conference meetings?
Yeah, there's 3 in a row, or 4 in a row on conference meetings. One was for over $1,000 and 31 and so forth. It doesn't say who.
Isn't that your conference you went to?
This is 166.
That's the conference he went to.
That's me. That was probably my hotel. Yeah.
The one he
I went to
reported
the
last
conference
time.
in Minnesota,
Oh,
in
yeah.
Minneapolis, GFOA for
The
5
yearly,
or 6
one.
Yeah, I remember you reporting it, I just didn't know who this was for.
Yeah, that's
And
what it
then
was.
down below, there's another conference and meetings, TP, I guess means treatment plant, 664 and 350.
So, yeah. Jason,
Yeah, so.
I think it was Jason Bell went to a conference and
That was for the
He talked about that, didn't he? When he was in here, we talked about that.
Yeah,
last month he told me.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
just paying it now, yeah.
I remember him saying something about it.
Over on 167, Wilson Printing and Signs, the only comment I have there, did you check out the other printing shops in town? There's one of them, I've been told, that gives older shop gives a
Yep.
considerable discount to printing signs and stuff.
we've shopped all 3. Well, we've shopped 3. The Paradise Printing, Wilson Printing, and I know we went down to Chico and shop Fox.
There's one on Skyway, my son went there and they don't make big ones. He wanted his vehicle done and they don't do that big.
We shopped the guy 12, I know that.
Right, okay, that it?
No, I'm still going. 168, these are grand totals, fund summaries, whatever. But there's like miscellaneous services, 8,119.44.
This is account names. This is by account names.
Yes.
I can explain that actually. That right there, we established, we wanted to segregate our costs associated with the grant funding for the watershed and all the work that goes into the watershed. And this fund we hadn't used before, or we used it, but it's kind of been defunct for a while, Fund 20. So I decided to use Fund 20 for the watershed, but it doesn't have like specifics in there. So I just have Jim putting the things that pertain to the watershed in this miscellaneous account with good description. So if I need to find out what's this go here for, I know exactly what fund to go into or what account to go into.
One right below it, professional services for 79.53.
Yeah, that's again Fund 20, and I'm assuming it's the payments that we've made for that watershed for the fire
Yeah,
and all that.
that would have been with the Butte County Fire Safe Council, and they hired the person that does the environmental work for that, and that was part of our share of that project.
Okay. 2011 refinance, 569,000.
That was our last payment on that 2011 debt that we refinanced.
Okay. You got another miscellaneous professional service at 1475.
You gotta realize, Bill, these are just summaries of
These
the
are
checks
summaries
that we've
of the
already
ones
seen.
we've already looked at.
No, I understand what it is, but it's, I'd like
So
to
it's
know.
multiple people.
Okay, it says miscellaneous.
Right, but it's multiple vendors.
We use miscellaneous services.
You gotta look over in the checks, really, is a better place to get the description.
The checks, because this is lumping them together. That's why the figures are big.
Okay, that's,
Oh, for $1,475? Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what we coded to that, but it's some type of professional service that's not accounting, legal, or engineering, so.
Yeah.
then, okay, then I'll go back, now that we've, or at least I have a summary for legal, which I have
Yeah,
to look
legal.
at.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
What page?
They are on,
60.
let's see, there's a series of them. On page 148, $20,000, and then 11,000, and then 8,500, and then at the end of the check register, there was a minus figure for
Those are voided checks.
just a voided check.
Yeah, those are all voided checks, so you can always, if you went and looked, you would be able to find a 206 in there, you would be able to find a 20,130 positive to Manassian, because they voided their check.
So the one check for 20,000 was voided?
So that was voided.
It's supposed to be
Okay.
2,000, not 20,000?
So the legal services were just 19,000 for the month instead of 40,000?
For the month,
No, it's $20,130.01.
for the month, for last month, which we missed their payment, and I apologize to Dustin for this, was last month, their payment was $850.30. This, meaning June, this month, their bill was
12,000, whatever.
11,279.98.
Right.
If you add those all up, she was trying to pay them all in one check, at 20,030, and I told her not to do that.
What's the one for this month? I'm still trying to,
This month, it was $11,279.98.
that's a combination. There's one current balance, 14,000 here. I was just trying to find a page.
Did you get
And what I've got here.
No, I gave them the one, but it's confusing because of their billing.
Their billing.
Yeah, don't give us
Nothing to
confusing
do with
billing.
Confusing billing.
Until tonight, I didn't even.
Come on,
know
Dustin,
the
I mean,
Last month.
That was last
I still showed up.
the previous, and you
And I didn't charge interest, I don't believe.
Okay, and that's
There's
because.
no
you
late
paid
fees?
on it.
No late fees.
So this is the amount.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so what is general at $6,024, Dustin?
General,
General, it's $6,024.
on your bill,
Oh, it's on
General,
your bill. You
it's-
should have some idea, I would think.
Got it in front of me.
6,000 something.
What's the 6,000 number?
It just says general.
That's your general account.
Yeah,
You've got $4,345.84 for labor negotiations.
Labor negotiations. That's Amy.
oh, so
labor is down
Emily's in there?
besides it, the 6,000 is something else.
That's just your general account. That's attendance at the board meeting. That's any inquiry that comes in.
What are you charging the going down to Sacramento to?
That's do you have a bill in front of you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm
That's
the
I
only
can
one
give you
that asked for
mine.
a copy, so I got.
That was $700.
Okay.
That's all shared.
That's shared.
How much does this explanation
How
cost
many,
us?
how many districts do we share with?
Let's look at this
What's happening
realistically.
with 9 other districts if you split that?
Costs more to find out how much.
Like 6 minutes.
I think there's only 3 now.
Dustin,
How many do you share with? We share with?
how many,
On that particular one, it was 24, I think.
oh, 24.
Only 4 people?
Okay, Dustin, how much did you charge the district for me?
All right, hang
That
on.
figure was too big. We couldn't.
I know, I just wanted to say.
It ran off the end of the page there, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're listed on May 29th.
Nothing in June, I don't think.
No, I don't
So
think
we
so.
spent $6,000 worth of attorney's fees, and not one nickel was spent on me.
You haven't called me for a long time, Bill.
Oh, I know.
How many
I-
mic-
Probably
How much
since
was
that
spent on
policy
me?
went into-
How much has been spent on me?
None.
You're right. None the
Larry
whole
never calls you.
12 years. Okay. Bill, Doug, you got anything?
I have a couple.
Okay. Give them the
Yeah, page 55, I've been...
155?
Well, actually, yeah,
155?
55 or 155?
155, pardon me.
Okay.
And it's the Aquahawk, $1,070. Is that the 10 cents per meter?
Monthly payment.
That's our monthly.
So that's a monthly charge?
Yep.
Okay, good. Now, that's not being transferred, I had this question asked. That's not being transferred to the meters, holder, the rate per meter.
It's all absorbed in there.
Yeah, in other words, that
Part of the
10 cents
service
we're
fee.
just picking up. I have no
Part
problem
of the
with it.
service fee.
Okay, good. And then on 157, it was kind of interesting, went down through a whole bunch of stuff here. Starting up towards the top, shaded food remover, Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, we paid them $8,000. Was that for the con crews?
Yes,
Oh, great. And we pay them, what, $200 a day? Per crew?
roughly, yes.
Well, that's well spent money, because I was looking at the price, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for all. Okay, then on down to Edward Watts. It was a $4,000, then we
I'm supposed to do
put
this.
in two, and then we paid $1,900. Who's Edward Watts?
Somebody who was
Customer.
construction or some type of deposit for work, and so he put a deposit down, and that the charges, the charges for us were only $2,200, so we returned this.
Okay. What was the construction on? I just was wondering.
There's quite a few of them in here.
And then on down to St. Just Road. I have two of them on the Employment Development Department, and I was just asking, here's state income tax withholding. 3,000, both of them are about for 3,000. That's what actually you withhold from the employee and then pay the state, right? So that's actually employee money that's going to the state. Good. Just want to, then over here, under Feather River Hospital.
What page?
Page 158. I was just wondering, we had a $2,200 bill at Feather River Hospital. Was that workman's comp or what?
Deposit
It just said Feather River. I was just,
That's
Feather River.
another one of those construction things where they give a
Oh,
deposit.
that's construction.
Yeah, it's more construction.
Oh, okay, more construction. Because that new building they built on the other side.
Yeah,
of it.
deposits and charges.
Do they have a separate meter there?
I think so.
Then they paid us a capacity fee for that?
Then they would have if it is a separate meter, yes.
Okay,
But they have some big meters, so they could have tied it in from across the street.
yeah. Okay, never mind, I was gonna, and then I have one more here.
Bless you.
Lee and Rowe, is
What
that their
page?
final payment?
What page?
Page 160.
I can say yes, that is it.
Yeah, because when you showed here under the contracts, like you do, I appreciate that, it shows that we owe them nothing. But we paid them $231,000 thereabouts. Was that all for this water treatment plant?
Oh, yeah, that's all.
Okay. Good. That's all I have.
Okay. Ken?
I have just a few curiosity questions. On page 157, Department of Water Resources,
Yeah,
what is that interest payment?
that is an interest payment on our Davis Krensky loan. We have a semi-annual interest payment, and we only pay principal once a year. So it's semi-annual interest, principal once a year.
It's on loan.
To give you
So
a
it's just
calculation.
showing up here next to these annual dam fees that has nothing to do with those.
I know, but it's
Okay.
paid to the same vendor.
But they just go to the same people. Thank you.
2.5% on like.
Those are damn fees.
They were damn fees, all
Yeah.
right. That's it.
That's it, okay?
Nothing.
Sepp? Nothing? Okay, they got most of mine, but
Yep, it's got
the
one.
first one is on page 155, American Conservative and Billing Solutions. Is that, what is that, 1,000? $1,070.
That's the annual charge, or the monthly charge for the Aquahawk.
Rockwalk, okay. That's what I asked, monthly, okay. Let's see, and you got that one, and you got that one. On all these charges to, on all these bills to Thomas Ace Hardware, does it represent a trip every time? I would hope not, but, because that's an awful lot of trips.
No, I think that's, if they buy a couple items, she gets the detailed invoice and she breaks it out. If it's shop or if it's treatment plan or something. But, I mean, the guys do make quite a few trips down there just because there is certain things that they do need.
They have billing, they have billing, is he asking about, how come they're all dated the 11th? Is that what you were?
I'm asking if each one represents a trip to Ace Hardware.
Let me Larry's sounding like my wife, okay? But it's only 2 miles up the road. But I talked to the clerks there. The average amount of trips per project that anyone has is 2 and sometimes 3.
But how many projects do they do a day?
What? So you're at the hardware.
Okay.
I'm not that often, but my wife thinks that.
I don't even go then. I don't have to do the project.
That same thing.
Page 166.
The minute you walk in, I have to do the project then.
Page 166, the payment to
166.
U.S. Bank. I had a question about the 47311.
Valuation thing.
Yeah.
Where did we put a new stove?
For the treatment, was it the treatment plant or was it up there?
I think it's the treatment plant.
Oh, okay, because it wasn't
like a Resner stove or something?
It wasn't the job.
Your valuation thing.
Okay.
It's still broken and it's so old it would have cost more to fix it than probably just replace it.
Okay, yeah, I just wondered if it was at the rental or there.
It's the treatment plant.
Okay, then what is the wall blocks and
What page?
and caps? What is that?
What page?
Same page, same vendor.
Wall blocks?
Sorry,
Wall blocks and caps.
that's for the enclosure around the gen set.
Retaining wall.
Retain the block wall around the generator at the other end of the parking lot.
Oh, okay, but so that was on the shop? Is that on the shop or the office?
It's considered the shop.
Oh, okay. How come it's not coded the job number?
Because actually the generator was a separate job.
Oh, okay. Okay, on the vendor, we made a payment of, who is this guy that investment?
What page are you on?
Oh, wait, no, I see, that was a job.
Balt Investments?
Yeah, I was thinking we were doing something with another investment company. Okay, that's all I have. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion for approval of the June checks. Consider approval of general fund check numbers 46492 through 46635 for the month of June 2014, totaling $989,128.51, exclusive of voided check numbers 46561, 46566, 46570, 46575, and 46608, and authorize a similar amount allowing or adjusting for extraordinary budget or board-approved items during the month of July.
I second that.
Moved and seconded. Wow.
Motions tonight.
Is there any further discussion?
Just trying to keep the clock ticking.
All those in favor say aye.
I've got till midnight before I turn into a
All
pumpkin.
those in favor say aye.
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 We help the economy out.
Did you say?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
He's opposed. Okay, so it passes 4-1. So don't send the money out.
I have a reason. I'll tell you what it is. It's valid.
What is it?
Well, his motion was just for us to consider the approval.
Oh.
I feel that we have already considered them, and we should approve them outright.
Didn't I say for approval of the June checks?
Said consider.
Did I say
Read it
consider?
back.
I was reading that word consider up there because.
Okay, director's comments. Bill?
I'm a pain.
Yeah, no, you just being a little thorny, aren't you?
$5,000 some months ago. I asked, and it went to a committee. I don't remember if it was finance or personal, and it's never come back. There's been no committee action of any sort, and my comment is directly applied to this. If the committee doesn't act before the next meeting, I will ask to be on the agenda back to the board, because the committee is supposed to do their work.
What committee was that?
I don't know. I missed the first part of what you said, Bill. What was it?
The $5,000
for
spending.
George. It's either, I think it was personnel or, not finance, but personnel. And the board voted for that to go to committee, and nothing has happened.
Maybe they haven't had a meeting since then.
They've had committee meetings and so forth. It's just been ignored.
Who would it go to, George?
Admin and personnel.
Yeah.
And have they had a meeting?
I'm sure we have.
So it was missed.
I don't remember.
I thought they addressed it.
Well, did
I
they?
don't remember
Never came back to the
specifically.
board.
Look, well, you don't keep minutes on committee meetings, do you?
No, but we have committee reports,
Reports? Okay.
agendas.
Look it up. If it isn't, then
We'll do it, Bill.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, is that it?
schedule me an admin meeting.
Is that it?
Am I?
Okay.
It's actually perfect.
Doug?
We can meet our intern and we'll deal with some intern stuff.
I feel good.
You feel good?
Yeah.
Where?
That committee?
All over.
All over?
Am I on that
Okay.
committee? I'm on admin and personnel. You just scheduled me a meeting too, didn't you?
Okay, Ken, director's comment?
Oh, I have no comments this month,
Okay. Seth?
this meeting.
I just wanted to thank everybody for their hard work on the process water recycle project. We've been on a long road to get to the point that we're at, and I look forward to getting it underway. So I'd like to thank everybody for their hard work on it.
Okay, I have no comments, so we're going to go into closed session regarding real property negotiations. Anyone wish to speak to that? No, seeing none, we will go to closed session.
Well, don't we have 13? Don't we have 13? Hey, don't we have 13 that's not closed session?
That's just an announcement
That's just the announcement that I just made.
Oh.
to the public.
To
and
the
then
public.
we-